Chapter 2080. Seeing the 200,000 reinforcements, Xia Wen and Zhong Lin were also stunned. The two of them looked at each other with puzzled expressions. What's going on? Why did Sky Lion Pass send reinforcements? Commander Ji only asked us to gather 50,000 soldiers. Why are there 200,000 reinforcements here? Those 200,000 reinforcements are the subordinates of General Li and General Wang. They are the trusted subordinates of the right deputy commander. Could it be that they received the news and came here to help after seeing the battle at Cleaving Mountain? That's impossible. Without the commander's order, who dares to lead the troops out of the pass? Not to mention attacking the most dangerous Cleaving Mountain. That's right. Even if they saw the battle and hurriedly gathered the troops here, they can't be so fast. There's only one possibility. Commander Ji has already arranged for them to gather the troops and wait for reinforcements at Cleaving Mountain. Oh my God! Marshal Ji's foresight is godly. Did you already foresee this outcome? Xia Wen and Zhong Lin discussed for a while and finally came to a conclusion. The two were dumbfounded. Their hearts were filled with astonishment and disbelief. When they looked at Ji Tianqing's back, their hearts were filled with reverence, and their eyes were filled with worship. As expected of the god of killing in white who can fight against millions of troops with one sword. Not only is his combat power outstanding, but he can also predict the enemy's moves. He's simply the best commander in the world. With Commander Ji guarding Sky Lion Pass and assisting Lord Holy Emperor, why should we worry about not winning? From this moment on, Xia Wen and Zhong Lin were conquered by Ji Tianqing's tactics. A commander who was terrifyingly powerful and could command troops like a god was definitely an invincible god of war. Following such a commander, why should they worry about not being able to make a name for themselves? The facts proved that every change in the battle was under Ji Tianqing's control. The 100,000 reinforcements quickly annihilated the demon army at the foot of the mountain. Then, they passed through Cleaving Mountain and rushed to the demon camp at the back. The 20,000 soldiers guarding Cleaving Mountain hurriedly strengthened the defense and recuperated. Ji Tianqing didn't stop. He brought Lan Kuan, Xidagarba godly armor and old ancestor Sanju to the demon camp at the back of the mountain. Originally, there were 400,000 demon soldiers stationed in the demon camp. Previously, the demon camp sent out 250,000 soldiers to reinforce the Cleaving Mountain, but they all returned in defeat. Only 30,000 of them managed to escape back to the demon camp. The demon camp was shaken from top to bottom, and many of the generals were furious. Before they could regroup, Ji Tianqing arrived with 200,000 soldiers. He was still like a peerless god of death, unleashing his all-encompassing methods, blasting the devil race's main camp into disarray. The two divine beasts and old ancestor Sanju followed Ji Tianqing and charged bravely, slaughtering batch after batch of devil warriors. The demon race was utterly defeated, their morale plummeting to the extreme. With the prestige of victory, the human army naturally had high morale and marched forward with indomitable will. Ji Tianqing was leading the way, specifically killing the generals, blood god sons, and experts of the demon race. He was simply killing anyone who stood in his way. No one was a match for him. This bitter decisive battle quickly became a one-sided massacre. When Ji Tianqing and the two divine beasts killed all of the generals and experts of the demon race's main camp, the demon race's main camp was breached. The battle lasted for 2 hours, and then it was declared to be over. The 180,000 demon race's main army was almost completely annihilated, and only 10,000 or so people fled in all directions. On the side of the human army, only 20,000 or so people died, and 30,000 or so were injured. At this point, the human army had won a great victory, and successfully occupied the Cleaving Mountain. After the battle, the various commanders brought their soldiers to clean up the battlefield and treat the wounded. The four generals hurriedly rushed in front of Ji Tianqing, and excitedly reported the results of the battle. Ji Tianqing had already put away the two divine beasts and old ancestor Sanju, and let them rest in the sword world. He stood proudly on the Shifeng mountain, listening to the four generals report the news. After listening, he showed a gratified smile, and nodded. Tonight, Ben Shuai mobilized a total of 250,000 soldiers to attack the Shifeng mountain. Although it was a risky move, it was beyond everyone's expectations, and achieved great results. Our army only lost 50,000 people, and 40,000 or so were injured, but we annihilated more than 400,000 demon race's main army, and successfully occupied the Shifeng mountain. Such outstanding battle results and meritorious service will definitely spread throughout the northern battlefield, and greatly increase the morale of our army. You guys are very sensible, and very cooperative with Ben Shuai's actions. Ben Shuai will definitely reward you according to your merits, and put you in important positions. Ji Tianqing was very satisfied with the results of the battle, but he did not claim the credit, and even expressed that he would put the four generals in important positions. The four generals immediately had complicated feelings, and were filled with gratitude and joy, and bowed one after another. Many thanks for General Ji's appreciation and praise. This general will definitely be loyal to his duty, and follow your orders. Zhong Lin said with a sincere tone. Xie Wen cupped his fists and bowed, and said in a sonorous tone, General Ji has contributed greatly to this great victory. This general and the others do not dare to take the credit. If you did not sneak into the Shifeng mountain first, kill the four demon kings, and kill many demon generals and blood god sons, we would not be able to win. If General Ji did not use the army like a god, and take every possibility into account, tonight would not have gone so smoothly. General Li's face was full of smiles, and he said with a flushed face, General Ji's martial prowess is extraordinary, and you use the army like a god. This is simply rare in this world. This general is completely convinced. General Ji, please do not worry, from now on, this general will follow your lead, and will do his best to be loyal to you. General Wang hesitated for a moment, and then said with a face full of shame, I am ashamed to say this, but General Ji secretly ordered this general to gather 100,000 soldiers and prepare to attack the Shifeng mountain at any time. At that time, this general was still very hesitant, and thought that we would not be able to return tonight, and that we might die on the battlefield. But after seeing General Ji's strength and methods, I had a trace of hope and fantasy in my heart, so I chose to take the risk. Unexpectedly, this general made the right bet. General Ji's strength, ability, courage have all made this old man admire you greatly. This old man is willing to follow General Ji. The reactions of the four generals were all within Ji Tianqing's expectations. He only listened with a face full of smiles, and did not say anything more. After the four generals finished speaking, he then said with a confident tone, the four generals are willing to believe in Ben Shuai, and that is why there will be tonight's great victory. However, Ben Shuai has already said that taking down the Shifeng mountain is only the beginning, and it is only used to raise the morale of the soldiers. Are you satisfied with this little bit of victory and military merit? Ha ha ha, follow Ben Shuai and do your job well. Ben Shuai will let you see what it means to be victorious in every battle, and to be invincible. The four generals were all infected by Ji Tianqing's aura, and their blood was boiling. Their hearts were filled with excitement and expectation. General Ji, please do not worry, this general will be loyal to you until death. It is this general's honor to follow General Ji into battle. The four of them cupped their fists and bowed at the same time, and their attitude became more humble and respectful. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and ordered, General Wang and General Li, stay here and lead 100,000 soldiers to guard the Shifeng mountain. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin, lead the rest of the soldiers and follow Ben Shuai back to the Sky Lion Pass. Chapter 2081. Resolving the demon race's chaos at the northern battlefront and saving the Luo River God Nation's fate was something Ji Tianqing had to do. It was to repay the kindness of the Luo River God Nation and also to weaken the North Underworld Mountain. It was also to make preparations to eliminate the ancestor demon god in the future. Ji Tianqing already had a plan in mind, which was why it went so smoothly and created such amazing miracles and military exploits. Sky Lion Pass could not take down the Cleaving mountain after a long time and did not even dare to attack it again. However, he took it down in one night. Not only did he take down the Cleaving mountain, he also wiped out more than 400,000 demon race soldiers with minimal casualties. This news quickly spread back to the Sky Lion Pass, causing the 3 million soldiers to be shocked and in disbelief. However, this was an undeniable fact and no one could doubt it. While the millions of soldiers were shocked, they also admired and praised Ji Tianqing's military tactics and ability. No one expected that he would give the Sky Lion Pass such a big gift on the night he took over as the deputy commander. It was too shocking and it raised the morale of the soldiers. The entire Sky Lion Pass was filled with jubilation and was bustling with noise and excitement. The soldiers' blood was boiling and they were full of ambition. They all wanted to rush to the battlefield immediately and achieve their goals. Especially after Ji Tianqing returned to the Sky Lion Pass, he rewarded the meritorious officials with great fanfare and compensated the soldiers who were injured or killed. This move attracted the hearts of the people, stimulating the blood of those soldiers with lofty aspirations, and making them wish they could immediately join him. It was the good fortune of the 3 million soldiers to have such a powerful and godlike commander. Previously, many soldiers found it hard to accept his rude and domineering behavior when he chased Yu Fu away and they talked about him behind his back. However, after the Battle of the Cleaving Mountain, those soldiers who were neutral immediately respected and revered him. Even those soldiers who talked about him behind his back obediently shut their mouths. They could not help but admire him in their hearts. To the soldiers who had died on the battlefield, only powerful martial strength and iron-forged military achievements were the most convincing. Now, Ji Tianqing did it. Moreover, it was beyond everyone's expectations. Who dared to not submit to him? Many hot-blooded and warlike soldiers even felt that they had finally made it. Finally, they didn't have to hide in the Heavenly Lion Pass anymore. They finally had a chance to kill their way out of the pass and slaughter the demon race. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers who returned in triumph praised Ji Tianqing to the heavens and worshipped him as a god. When he talked about the great battle that night, he was full of pride and glory. The soldiers guarding the Heavenly Lion Pass were naturally envious and jealous. They wished that they could personally participate in the battle and enjoy this glory. For the next 2 days, the Heavenly Lion Pass was not peaceful. Millions of officers and soldiers were filled with anticipation and were ready to set out at any time. They all wanted to follow Ji Tianqing to victory and also wanted to witness his invincible demeanor with their own eyes. Ji Tianqing was not idle either. He made bold and decisive changes, adjusting the positions and ranks of the generals. The loyal and trusted generals that Yu Fu had left behind were all demoted to idle positions without any real power. Those generals who were willing to obey his orders and serve him with their lives would be promoted and placed in important positions. They would be given real power. The 4 people who benefited the most were of course Xia Wan, Zhong Lin, General Li, and General Wang. They became the most favored generals under his command. This way of doing things was undoubtedly a signal. The current Heavenly Lion Pass was completely under Ji Tianqing's control. It had become his sole say. Whoever dared to disobey his orders and go against him would not have a good ending. Only those who were loyal to him and worked hard for him would have a chance to be put in important positions. Many generals who were talented but had different ideas from Yu Fu's had waited for the day to come and saw the opportunity to make a name for themselves. However, there were also a few narrow-minded people who talked about Ji Tianqing behind his back. They said that he eliminated those who disagreed with him and that he was arbitrary and domineering. Ji Tianqing did not care about these rumors at all. He was too lazy to pay attention to them. This was because he had his own things to do. He had a set goal that he had yet to complete. He had no time to waste. Inside White Mountain City. In a magnificent palace, in a quaint and elegant study room. Lu Baishuang was sitting in front of a table, seriously reviewing memorials and handling the affairs of the Empire of White Frost. Since leaving Heavenly Lion Pass and coming to White Mountain City, she had been busy for 2 days and 2 nights. She had not slept a wink. The Empire of White Frost was the latest to be established among the various empires. Its foundation was also the most shallow. It could not withstand too many twists and turns. Now that the demon army was pressing on the border of the Empire of White Frost, how could she be at ease? Under internal and external troubles, she worked day and night. She could not split herself up and was physically and mentally exhausted. Suddenly, a maid walked quickly into the study room and bowed respectfully in front of her. Reporting to Lord Saint Emperor, there is an urgent military report. Hearing this, Lu Baishuang immediately put down the memorials and asked with a serious expression, "What happened? Did something happen in Heavenly Lion Pass?" The maid did not dare to hide anything. She could only lower her head and report truthfully, "Lord Saint Emperor is wise. That is exactly what happened. Just last night, Deputy General Ji Tianqing secretly gathered 50,000 soldiers led by Generals Xia Wen and Zhong Lin. They rushed 800 miles to attack Cleaving Mountain outside the pass." Suddenly hearing this news, Lu Baishuang immediately frowned, and his eyes flashed with anger. "Damn it! As expected, he is the one causing trouble. I had guessed it long ago. He deliberately angered me so that he could stir up trouble. But I did not expect that he would be so impatient. He launched an attack on the night he took over as Deputy General. Moreover, he only brought 50,000 soldiers to attack Cleaving Mountain, which is the most dangerous place. Isn't this nonsense?" Lu Baishuang was so angry that her face turned pale. She slammed her palm on the table. She stood up and ordered coldly, "This Ji Tianqing is too unreliable. He is simply arrogant and ignorant. No, I have to rush back to Heavenly Lion Pass immediately. I have to watch over him personally to prevent him from making an irreversible mistake." In Lu Baishuang's view, Ji Tianqing only brought 50,000 soldiers to die. It could be considered a blessing in disguise. But the maid's next words made her eyes go dark. Lord Saint Emperor, Deputy General Ji brought 50,000 soldiers to Cleaving Mountain and launched an attack at night. He also secretly ordered General Li and General Wang to gather 200,000 troops and follow closely behind to reinforce Cleaving Mountain. What? Lu Baishuang's eyes widened again. She cursed even more angrily, "Damn bastard. It's not enough that he killed 50,000 soldiers. He even wants 200,000 soldiers to die. Cleaving Mountain is easy to defend and hard to attack. It is also the outpost of the demon camp. There are 400,000 demon soldiers stationed behind the mountain. If 200,000 soldiers go there, it will be no different from sending lambs to the tiger's mouth." Lu Baishuang could not sit still anymore. She immediately wanted to return to Heavenly Lion Pass. But the maid continued, "Lord Saint Emperor, please do not be impatient. What this subordinate has just said is all Lord Ji's arrangements. Now, our army has won a great victory. Cleaving Mountain has already been captured by Lord Ji." Chapter 2082. Lu Baishuang was stunned for a few seconds before she slowly came back to her senses. Even so, she still couldn't accept this result. Her face was full of disbelief. "You just said that he led 250,000 soldiers to attack Cleaving Mountain at night and won?" Lu Baishuang stared at the maid and asked in a low and slow voice. The maid didn't understand, but she quickly nodded and said with a smile, "Lord Saint Emperor, that's right. Lord Ji really took down the Cleaving Mountain and killed more than 400,000 devil soldiers. Now the whole Sky Lion Pass is boiling. 3 million soldiers are talking about Lord Ji's strength and ability. All the soldiers are praising him for predicting the enemy's moves and using troops like a god. He's simply the reincarnation of the god of war." Lu Baishuang finally recovered, but she couldn't help but shake her head and say, "How is this possible? He only brought 250,000 soldiers, but he was able to take down Cleaving Mountain and kill more than 400,000 demons. No matter what, this news sounds like a heavenly book. How can people believe it?" The maid didn't know the situation well enough, so she didn't dare to say anything. She could only explain, "Lord Saint Emperor, I don't know the details and can't help you. But you can send a message and ask the generals guarding Sky Lion Pass. You will know if it's true or not." Lu Baishuang gradually woke up from the shock and said angrily, "Xia Wen and Zhong Lin, those two bastards, I arranged them to be Ji Tianqing's deputies. Before I left, I told them that if Ji Tianqing had any strange movements, they should immediately inform me. It's already been 2 days, but they only reported it now." Seeing that Lu Baishuang was angry, the maid quickly bowed and said, "Lord Saint Emperor, please calm down. The two generals can't be blamed for this matter. After all, this was Lord Ji's order. Lord Ji said that taking down Cleaving Mountain is only the first step. He has more important things that he hasn't done yet. Before reaching the goal, this news must be kept secret." Lu Baishuang finally calmed down, but when she heard this sentence, her heart tightened again. What? What kind of tricks is that brat playing? I don't know. The maidservant bowed and left respectfully. Lu Baishuang was left alone in the study room. He frowned and thought to himself, "No, since I said that I would trust him, I should show an attitude of trust." Plus, he had already created a miracle and conquered the Cleaving Mountain. The more crucial it is, the more this emperor cannot return to Heavenly Lion Pass. Otherwise, he will bear a grudge against me. Not only can I not blame him for acting rashly, but I also have to pass a decree praising him for his ability to command troops and his outstanding achievements. Lu Baishuang's mood was very complicated. He was shocked and puzzled at the same time. He was a little angry, but he also felt fortunate. She hesitated for a long time before she made up her mind and sent a message to Ji Tianqing. After sending the communication jade slip, she patiently waited for Ji Tianqing's reply. In her mind, she had already let bygones be bygones and was no longer angry with Ji Tianqing. As a man, Ji Tianqing would definitely put aside his previous prejudice and reply to her message. Moreover, she was the commander-in-chief of the Empire of White Frost, and Ji Tianqing was her deputy commander-in-chief, her subordinate. It was reasonable for her to send a message to report the news. However, Lu Baishuang miscalculated again. She waited for a whole day and night, but she did not receive any reply from Ji Tianqing. Until the second night, she paced back and forth in the study for a long time. Finally, she could not hold back the anger in her heart. "Damn you, you don't even have the slightest bit of magnanimity. You don't even reply to my message. I have already given you a way out, but you are not willing to back down. You even want to embarrass me? Humph. This emperor wants to see just how arrogant you are." Lu Baishuang muttered angrily. She took out another communication jade slip and prepared to send a message to Ji Tianqing. However, at this moment, another maid walked into the study. She cupped her hands and reporting to the Holy Emperor, "There is news from Heavenly Lion Pass. Deputy Commander-in-Chief Ji has just gathered 200,000 troops and charged out of Heavenly Lion Pass at night to attack Luoying Valley." What? Lu Baishuang was stunned. She crushed the communication jade slip in her hand. Her eyes were filled with shock. Damn bastard, he actually went to attack Luoying Valley again? That is the gate of the Devil Race's camp. It is the most heavily guarded area. Once he passes through Luoying Valley, there is a plain 8,000 miles behind him. There are millions of Devil Race troops stationed there. Even I do not dare to attack Luoying Valley with my troops. How dare he be so arrogant? The defense of Luoying Valley is stronger than Cleaving Mountain. There are more than twice as many troops stationed there. How dare he be so careless? Lu Baishuang's heart was burning with worry. She immediately wanted to send a message to Ji Tianqing to immediately return to Heavenly Lion Pass. However, the maid continued to report, "Holy Emperor, this message was secretly sent by the general guarding Heavenly Lion Pass. Deputy Commander-in-Chief Ji has been hiding it. He did not intend to report it to you at all." Lu Baishuang was so angry that her pretty face turned pale. She angrily slammed the table and shouted coldly, "Bastard! I am the Commander-in-Chief of the 3 armies. How dare he hide it from me and act on his own? This is too ridiculous. Even if he had just won a battle, he would not dare to advance so rashly. This is simply sending 200,000 soldiers to their deaths. He is too crazy. No, I cannot let him continue to fool around. I must return to Heavenly Lion Pass to take charge." As she spoke, Lu Baishuang straightened her skirt and was about to walk out of the door. The maid hurriedly stopped her and explained, "Holy Emperor, please calm down. When General Xia Wan and General Zhong Lin sent this message, they specifically said that Ji Tianqing has planned this well. With Lord Ji's meticulous planning, there will definitely be a pleasant surprise. Holy Emperor, please do not make a fuss and do not stop Ji Tianqing's decision. Otherwise, Ji Tianqing will leave Heavenly Lion Pass and join the other Commander-in-Chief's command." Lu Baishuang immediately stopped in her tracks. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Ha ha ha. I am the Commander-in-Chief. Do I have no right to interfere with the Deputy Commander-in-Chief's plan? Damn Ji Tianqing. He is so arrogant. He does not put me in his eyes at all. He has gone too far. No matter if he succeeds or fails tonight, I will not let him off easily." After a long time, Lu Baishuang's anger dissipated. She waved her hand and dismissed the maid. She walked out of the study alone and quietly left White Mountain City. Even if Ji Tianqing was dissatisfied and even teased her again, she could not care less. She only wanted to return to Heavenly Lion Pass and personally monitor Ji Tianqing. She would not let him do such a crazy thing again. However, it would take her at least 12 hours to rush back to Heavenly Lion Pass from White Mountain City. By the time she reached Heavenly Lion Pass, the sky would be bright. At that time, the battle would be over and everything would be settled. Lu Baishuang prayed in her heart as she hurried back, "Ji Tianqing, ah Ji Tianqing. Although you are despicable, you are still a rare talent. It is just that you are too arrogant. You have to suffer some losses to learn your lesson." Chapter 2083. When Lu Baishuang arrived at Sky Lion Pass, it was already early in the morning. The sun rose from the east, and a thin mist and frost shrouded the pass. The world was cold and clear. After arriving at Sky Lion Pass, she had just landed on the peak of the mountain on the west side. She didn't have time to ask a general about the situation. All of a sudden, she saw a dazzling golden light coming from 100 miles away from the pass. The golden light was as fast as lightning. After a few breaths, it crossed the distance of 100 miles and arrived above Sky Lion Pass. Swoosh! The golden light landed on the peak of the mountain on the west side, on a square not far from Lu Baishuang. After the golden light faded, a handsome and tall figure appeared. It was a handsome young man in a white robe with long hair draped over his shoulders. His face was handsome and resolute, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His whole body exuded a mysterious and noble aura, as if he was connected to heaven and earth. His white robe was tattered in many places and stained with blood. The blood had already dried and turned dark red, making him look particularly miserable. There was no doubt that he must have experienced a fierce and bloody battle. He held a black sword in his hand and stood there with a dignified appearance, looking around with sharp eyes. His expression and aura were very calm, but when he suddenly glanced at Lu Baishuang not far away, he couldn't help but be startled and frowned slightly. Then, his face became pale, and his breathing became a little chaotic. His expression was also full of fatigue. He staggered and walked straight to Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang saw his appearance and her heart suddenly tightened. She quickly went to greet him. Ji Tianqing. Why did you come back alone? Lu Baishuang rushed to him and stretched out her hands to support him. She asked anxiously, how was the battle last night? Where are the other generals and soldiers? Why didn't they come back with you? Ji Tianqing looked weak and powerless. He held Lu Baishuang's wrist tightly with both of his hands. His voice was hoarse and dry as he said with a bitter smile, my life was at stake. I could only run away, Ben Shuai was lucky to escape alive. After all, I am a rare genius. How could I die on the battlefield? That would be the loss of the human race. Lu Baishuang frowned when he heard this, and in his heart, he cursed this narcissist. However, seeing that the situation was urgent, she didn't want to argue with Ji Tianqing. She asked anxiously, Ji Tianqing. Speak clearly, what exactly happened? Why did you come back alone? Could it be that our army suffered a crushing defeat in the Battle of Luoying Valley? Ji Tianqing looked at her with dim eyes and nodded weakly. Seeing his reaction, Lu Baishuang felt as if he had been struck by lightning, his eyes filled with disappointment. As expected. I didn't guess wrongly. Ji Tianqing, you are arrogant and reckless. You actually brought 200,000 soldiers to attack Luoying Valley. This was a taboo in the army. It was stupid to the extreme. Now, 200,000 soldiers had died in battle. Who knew how many of them would be able to escape? As the deputy commander, not only did you not defend to the end, you even fled back to the Heavenly Lion Pass. Ji Tianqing. You have really disappointed me. Lu Baishuang glared at Ji Tianqing, pointed at his nose and scolded, you won the battle earlier. In your arrogance, you rashly attacked Luoying Valley, causing the army to suffer a crushing defeat. I am magnanimous and can forgive your recklessness. I won't pursue your mistakes. However, as the commander of an army, how could you ignore your soldiers and escape alone? This is simply too shameful. No general should make such a stupid mistake. Ji Tianqing was scolded harshly by her, but he wasn't angry. With an indifferent expression, he waved his hand and said, Lu Baishuang, don't be so angry. Victory and defeat are common in war. It's not a big deal that 200,000 soldiers died. Isn't Ben Shuai still alive? Don't you still have over 2,700,000 soldiers? When Ben Shuai recovers from his injuries, he will lead the army again. He will definitely destroy the demon camp in one fell swoop and wipe out the million-demon army. Ji Tianqing patted his chest confidently, as if he was making a solemn vow. However, when Lu Baishuang saw his attitude, she was even more disappointed and angry. She scolded, Ji Tianqing. You bastard, when are you going to wake up? Can't you restrain yourself a little? Don't be so lawless, arrogant and conceited, okay? We are dealing with the demon race. They are the most terrifying race on the continent. Can't you be a little more careful? You have already made such a big mistake. The entire army will blame you. However, I will help you suppress this matter and let you recover in peace. I will not allow the soldiers to criticize you. Don't say any more. Quickly go back and recover. I will personally take care of the following matters. Ji Tianqing looked at her in a daze, his eyes filled with emotion. He was silent for a long time before he suddenly said something. Lu Baishuang, on the surface, you are fiercely scolding me, but in fact, you can't bear to see me suffer. Even if I made a big mistake, you are still so tolerant of me, and even help me deal with the future. I am now more and more convinced that it is my elegant demeanor and charm that has conquered your heart. Pooh! Lu Baishuang was already angry. Suddenly hearing Ji Tianqing talk nonsense, she was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Bastard! You shut up for me. Lu Baishuang angrily glared at him, pointing to the palace not far away, and scolded, you narcissist, go back and recover. I don't want to see you again. Ji Tianqing was still looking at her with a smile on his face. He sighed with emotion and said, "Look, your every word and action has revealed your true feelings. You are so angry that you almost vomited blood, but you are not willing to hurt me. You even urged me to recover. This is such a deep and reserved love." Lu Baishuang was trembling with anger. She glared at him coldly and shouted, "Get out now. Immediately. Immediately." Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded, Yes, I have to recover as soon as possible, so you don't have to worry about me." Lu Baishuang was no longer willing to listen to him. She reached out and grabbed him by the collar, throwing him to the palace 1,000 feet away. Swish! A golden light wrapped around Ji Tianqing, flew across the sky 1,000 feet away, and landed in the palace. Lu Baishuang stood in the same place, still angry. It was obvious that her anger had not subsided. Not long after, a bell suddenly sounded at the edge of the square, and many scouts flew into the sky, shouting themselves hoarse. Victory! Victory! Last night, we won a great victory in Luoying Valley. Shouts resounded through the sky, and soon spread throughout Heavenly Lion Pass. The million soldiers were excited, and all of them cheered excitedly, talking enthusiastically. Lu Baishuang was stunned in the square, and her face was full of confusion. She turned her head to look at the outside of the pass and saw a majestic troop, bringing along billowing clouds of dust as they dashed towards her. It was an army of more than 100,000 people. They were dressed like human soldiers, and the flag they held was also the flag of the Baishuang Empire. Suddenly seeing this scene, Lu Baishuang's body suddenly stiffened. Chapter 2084. Obviously, Lu Baishuang had been tricked by Ji Tianqing again. Ever since she received news that Ji Tianqing had led troops to attack Luoying Valley, she was sure that Ji Tianqing would be defeated. She rushed back to Heavenly Lion Pass anxiously and saw that Ji Tianqing had returned alone, his whole body covered in blood. Her preconceived notion made her even more certain that Ji Tianqing had been defeated and had returned. In addition, Ji Tianqing's face was pale and his breathing was weak, as if he had been seriously injured. Lu Baishuang no longer had any doubts. She was heartbroken but could not bear to be too harsh on him. But in the end, she had been tricked. In the Battle of Luoying Valley last night, Ji Tianqing had won a complete victory. Lu Baishuang immediately understood that Ji Tianqing's weak and injured appearance was all an act. The purplish-black blood on his body was not his own, but the blood of the devil race soldiers. Despicable bastard! When he saw me return to Heavenly Lion Pass, he guessed my thoughts. Therefore, he purposely pretended to be defeated to test my reaction. In the end, I was careless and was deceived by him. I even comforted him with good intentions. When he heard that, he must have thought that it was funny and thought that I was extremely stupid. Ah! Too despicable. Lu Baishuang clenched her fists and stomped her feet in anger. She could not wait to beat Ji Tianqing up. At this moment, two generals covered in blood rushed over from afar. These two were Xie Wen and Zhong Lin. The two of them excitedly came to Lu Baishuang and bowed emotionally. They reporting to Saint Emperor, our army has won a complete victory and captured Luoying Valley. Saint Emperor, Deputy Commander Ji's military skills are godly and his bravery is unparalleled. Not only did he capture Luoying Valley, he also annihilated more than 700,000 devil race soldiers. The two of them were so excited that they did not care about Lu Baishuang's strange expression and reported the situation of the battle to themselves. Lord Saint Emperor, Vice Marshal Ji has only been in office for 3 days, yet he has already achieved 2 great victories in a row. No, he is truly a rare talent in the world, no, a war god. Now that Cleaving Mountain and Luoying Valley have been captured by our army, 2 gaps have been dug out in the demon army's defensive line. It is already in imminent danger. The demon camp was in a state of panic, but the morale of our soldiers was like a rainbow. With Deputy Commander Ji leading the army, victory is just around the corner. Lu Baishuang gradually calmed down, suppressed the anger in his heart, and showed a gratified smile. Even if she was angry with Ji Tianqing, she couldn't deny Ji Tianqing's contribution. When Xie Wan and Zhong Lin talked about Ji Tianqing, their faces were full of worship and reverence. This made Lu Baishuang very curious. How did Ji Tianqing do it? She waved her hand and asked Xie Wan and Zhong Lin, "Generals, you followed Deputy Commander Ji into the battle last night. You should know what happened. Why don't you report it in detail? He only brought 200,000 soldiers, how could he possibly take down Luoying Valley? It's even more impossible to annihilate the 700,000 demon army." Xie Wan hurriedly explained, "Lord Saint Emperor, you may not know. On the surface, Deputy Commander Ji only gathered 200,000 soldiers, led by General Zhong Lin and me. But in reality, Ji Tianqing had secretly dispatched 500,000 soldiers the night before, lying in ambush in the mountain range to the side of Luoying Valley. Although the defenses of Luoying Valley were tight, Deputy Commander Ji was the first to arrive and secretly infiltrated the demon camp. He personally took action, and with mysterious means, assassinated a deputy commander, 2 demon monarchs, and more than a dozen demon generals. When the demon camp fell into chaos, he created chaos everywhere, slaughtering a large number of elite experts and destroying several defensive formations. Zhong Lin followed up and explained, "General Xie and I have been waiting for news outside Luoying Valley. When the demon camp fell into chaos and the defensive formations were destroyed, we received Deputy Commander Ji's orders and killed our way in. The other 5 generals led 500,000 soldiers and attacked the demon camp from 2 sides. We attacked the devil camp from 3 sides and beat the devil army into a sorry state. Before setting out, Deputy Commander Ji secretly gathered the 5 generals and distributed dozens of talismans. When attacking the demon camp, these talismans played a crucial role. Not only did they slaughter a large number of demon soldiers, they also destroyed the demon camp's defensive fortifications and formations. The battle lasted for half the night, and in the end, only 80,000 of our army died and 100,000 were injured. But the demon camp was destroyed, and the 700,000 demon army was killed. Only 200,000 were left, and they fled in a sorry state." Xie Wan and Zhong Lin spoke in great detail. They were beaming with joy as they spoke. Their faces were filled with excitement. It was obvious that the battle last night had been fought so beautifully that they were still in awe of it and often reminisced about it. Lu Baishuang was also attracted, imagining the corresponding scene in his mind. He felt refreshed and satisfied. All along, the demon army has been tyrannical, invading divine nations' territory without any scruples, but no one can stop them. Our soldiers have always been suppressed by the demon army, and we have no ability to fight them head-on. Even if it was a decisive battle on the battlefield, the result was always to kill 800 of the enemy and lose 1,000 of our own. Who would have thought that Ji Tianqing would create such a miracle? It is simply inconceivable." Speaking of this, Lu Baishuang's mind suddenly had a question, and he asked, "That's right, what talismans did Ji Tianqing secretly distribute? Does it have such a powerful effect?" Xie Wan cupped his hands and replied, "Reporting to Lord Saint Emperor, this talisman was personally refined by Deputy Commander Ji. It contains heavenly lightning, astral fire, and divine star fire. Deputy Commander Ji said that although the talisman's grade is not high, only tribulation level, it can be used by tribulation level powerhouses. But the heavenly lightning, astral fire and divine star fire are the most powerful and can restrain the demon's power." Lu Baishuang suddenly frowned, and thought to himself, heavenly lightning, astral fire, and divine star fire. These 3 extraordinary powers, ordinary martial saints can't control them. He can control them freely and even refine them into talismans. This guy, not only does he have the strength of a martial saint, but he is also one of the best martial saints. Thinking of this, she felt that she didn't know enough about Ji Tianqing. Of course, the more she knew about Ji Tianqing, the more shocked she was. She was more and more curious about Ji Tianqing, and wanted to know his secrets. How many tricks does this monstrous guy have that he hasn't used yet? After a moment of silence, Lu Baishuang came back to her senses, and waved her hand and ordered, "Xia Wen, Zhong Lin, the two of you have returned victorious, go and recuperate as soon as possible. This time, you have made a great contribution, and this emperor will reward you heavily. In addition, the two of you are Deputy Commander Ji's assistants, and you must do your best. In the future, his orders are equivalent to this emperor's orders." Xia Wen and Zhong Lin looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. For Lu Baishuang to say such words, it was clear that she completely trusted Ji Tianqing and thought highly of him. Chapter 2085. After Xia Wen and Zhong Lin bowed and left, Lu Baishuang was stunned for a moment. After hearing the details of the battle at Luoying Valley, the anger in her heart dissipated a lot. It was because she could imagine how much risk Ji Tianqing had taken and how much effort he had put in to kill the enemy's general. No matter how strong an individual was, no one dared to sneak into an army of millions and assassinate the enemy general alone. The slightest carelessness would result in death. In the past, no matter how loyal and brave the right deputy general was, he would not have dared to make such a sacrifice. As for the left deputy general Yu Fu, he was even more afraid of death and would not have such fearless courage. But Ji Tianqing had done it. He had just arrived and did not have any feelings for the empire of Baishuang, but he was willing to make such a sacrifice. Lu Baishuang thought about it carefully and felt guilty. Sigh. Although this guy's mouth is annoying, he is a brave and heroic person with extraordinary courage and strategy. It is the empire of Baishuang's good fortune that he can come to Heavenly Lion Pass to lead the army. This emperor is the holy emperor of a country, how can I lower myself to his level? After making up her mind, she walked towards the general's palace to talk to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing had made such a great contribution, of course she had to reward and commend him. Lu Baishuang had just stepped into the meeting hall when she saw Ji Tianqing standing on the sand table with his head bowed and thinking about something. He stood there motionless, his brows furrowed and his eyes fixed on the sand table. He did not notice Lu Baishuang's arrival at all. Lu Baishuang walked to his side and looked at his face. She could not help but sigh in her heart. This guy only looks annoying on the surface, but in fact, he is more serious than anyone else. He works harder than anyone else. He just fought a big battle and did not rest after returning. He is still worried about the battle situation. Looking at him carefully, his serious look is really admirable. Just as Lu Baishuang was thinking to herself, Ji Tianqing came back to his senses and glanced at her. He said unhappily, "Why are you walking without making any sound? Why did you sneak over?" Lu Baishuang wanted to explain, but seeing his expression and tone, there was a hint of disdain in his tone. Suddenly, anger welled up in his heart. "Ji Tianqing. I am the commander-in-chief of the three armies. What's wrong with me coming to the conference hall? Furthermore, you won a great victory last night. As the commander, I have to reward you and reward you." Yi Xiao thought. "Looking at your reaction now, I guess you don't want to accept it." Ji Tianqing smiled and said warmly, "Lord Saint Emperor, you must be joking. The soldiers have won the battle, so of course they have to be rewarded. As for me, I don't care about fame and worldly possessions. As for the rewards for the soldiers, I have already written them down in the book. You can distribute them accordingly and reward them a little more." Finished speaking, he took out a military book from his sleeve and threw it to Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang opened it, and his face immediately changed. The 7 generals who participated in the battle were each rewarded with 20 million spirit stones and 2 pieces of supreme-level magical equipment. Even the hundreds of commanders could receive 8 million spirit stones worth of resources. They were also given a military merit and a title of Lord of the Empire. Lu Baishuang slammed the book shut and glared at Ji Tianqing. He shouted angrily, "You are simply messing around. Do you think the Empire's treasury is an inexhaustible treasure mountain? It is gratifying to win the battle, but how can you reward so wantonly? You must know that this reward is 5 times more than usual. If you continue to do this, the treasury will soon be empty." Ji Tianqing was neither angry nor anxious. He smiled and said, "Baishuang, calm down first. Don't be so short-sighted. If the army can't win the battle, and the empire of Baishuang is conquered by the demon army, it will be useless even if you are the richest in the world. As the saying goes, when there is a great reward, there will be brave men. Only by doubling the rewards can the soldiers fight for the empire without hesitation. Even if the treasury is emptied, so what? As long as we can defeat the demon army and repel the demon army, everything will be worth it." Lu Baishuang stared at him and suddenly revealed an expression of realization. "Humph. I was wondering why you suddenly became so gentle and pleasant to this emperor. So, you want me to bleed and reward the soldiers who have performed meritorious service?" Ji Tianqing didn't hide it and said with a smile, "Holy Emperor Baishuang is indeed very intelligent. That's right. The soldiers worked hard for you and won the battle. Don't tell me you shouldn't reward them. These resources and treasures, you can't expect me to pay for them out of my own pocket, right?" Lu Baishuang was even more angry. He pointed at him and said, You are a martial saint of a generation, respected as the god of war by the soldiers. How can you be so calculative? Those cultivation resources are nothing to you, and you still want to scheme against this emperor." Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, "Don't flatter me. I don't buy it. I am very poor now. How can I have extra resources to reward the soldiers? Anyway, I promised generous rewards before the battle. That's why the soldiers worked so hard. If you embezzle the rewards and make the soldiers unhappy, I won't help you out. At that time, I will push all the blame to you. Let's see what you can do." Lu Baishuang was so angry that his body trembled. He glared at him and shouted, "Good Ji Tianqing. You are shameless to the extreme. Thank you for your praise, Lord Holy Emperor." Ji Tianqing smiled as he cupped his hands and replied indifferently. Lu Baishuang couldn't stay any longer and turned to leave angrily. Of course, she didn't forget the military merit book and kept it quietly. After leaving the commander's palace, Lu Baishuang sulked for a long time. "Damn Ji Tianqing, you want to use the same trick again to drive this emperor away. This emperor saw through your scheme long ago. This time, I won't fall for it. This emperor will stay in Sky Lion Pass and personally watch over you. Let's see what kind of trouble you can cause." Thinking of this, Lu Baishuang calmed down a lot and started to do business. She wrote a decree and asked the National Treasury to send resources to Sky Lion Pass to reward the soldiers. After writing the decree, she was about to send it out. However, she remembered what Ji Tianqing said before. "I am very poor now. How can I have extra resources to give to the soldiers?" Thinking of this sentence, Lu Baishuang suddenly hesitated and muttered, "The dignified eldest disciple of Luotian Mountain, the most valued god's disciple. How can you lack cultivation resources? Humph. This emperor has a kind heart, so I won't argue with you." Thus, she added another line to the edict. 3 days passed quickly. Early in the morning, Lu Baishuang gathered all the generals and commanders in the square at the top of the mountain to reward them in public. Every general and commander who made a contribution received a generous reward. Only Ji Tianqing didn't come and didn't receive any reward. After the reward ceremony was over, the generals left in high spirits. Chapter 2086. Ji Tianqing was meditating in the secret chamber. He had been fighting for the past few days and his mind was tired. However, It had also allowed him to train and strengthen his martial arts foundation. His strength was also increasing. He could feel that he was not far from breaking through to the martial sage realm. At that moment, Xia Wen's voice sounded from outside the secret chamber. Reporting to Deputy Commander Ji, this general has something to report. Ji Tianqing opened his eyes and waved his hand to release a ray of golden light to open the door to the secret chamber. Xia Wen, who was dressed in martial attire, walked in with steady steps. He came in front of Ji Tianqing and took out a black infinite space ring. He reported, Deputy Commander Ji, Lord Sage Emperor has gathered all the meritorious officials and held a reward ceremony in the square. All the generals who performed meritorious deeds have received the rewards you promised. Everyone can't believe it, but they are very excited and grateful to you. Although Lord Sage Emperor didn't announce any rewards in public. However, Lord Sage Emperor has asked me to give you this infinite space ring. Oh. She has prepared a gift for Benshui. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and smiled playfully. He took the ring and used his spiritual consciousness to check it. The infinite space ring was filled with cultivation resources and upper spiritual stones were piled up like a mountain. There were thousands of bottles of elixir pills, hundreds of talismans, and various materials. It was a rich collection. A rough estimate put the value of the cultivation resources at over 100 million. Ji Tianqing played with the infinite space ring and smiled. Women are emotional. Even if I purposely angered her, she didn't hold it against Benshui. This marshal only said a few unintentional words, but she remembered it in her heart and even specially gave me a big gift. Xia Wen hesitated for a while before he cupped his hands and said, Deputy Commander Ji, I have something to tell you. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, It's okay to be frank. Xia Wen mustered up his courage and said, Lord Sage Emperor is the only female emperor in the Holy Kingdom. She is also the youngest Sage Emperor. It was not easy for her to come this far and support the entire kingdom. Although she looked cold and dignified, she was actually kind and benevolent. If that were not the case, this general and all the other generals and ministers would not be so supportive of the Saint Emperor. If you have any ideas or plans, feel free to tell the Saint Emperor. She will definitely understand. Why did you deliberately provoke her? You know that Lord Saint Emperor is good to you, so why do you keep hurting her? Ji Tianqing was silent for a moment before he shook his head with a bitter smile. There are some things that she won't understand even if I tell her. You won't understand either. Benshui was only here to carry out his mission. In 2 months at most, he would be able to repel the demon army and leave this place. From now on, Benshui will almost never come into contact with her again. Why should we complicate matters? Xia Wen looked as if he understood something. He asked carefully, General Ji, are you saying, you're afraid that the Holy Emperor will develop feelings for you after spending some time with you? Ji Tianqing smiled and shook his head. It might not be feelings. It could be appreciation, or closeness. But no matter what it is, Benshui doesn't want to get involved. It will only harm her. Since she is the Empress and sits in this position, she can't have feelings. She can't even be good friends with men. If she has feelings for others, she will definitely be heartless to her people. After a long time, it will harm the empire of White Frost. Benshui has once wronged many people. In this life, he only wants to make up for his regrets. He doesn't want to be involved in any more karma. Xia Wen was confused. He couldn't help but scratch his head and smile awkwardly. General Ji, this general is slow-witted. I don't understand what you mean. This general has said too much. This general will take his leave. Ji Tianqing raised his hand to stop him. Benshui put you in charge of gathering information. What's the result? Has the demon army made any movements? Xia Wen quickly replied, reporting to General Ji, the scout camp has done all they can to monitor the demon army's movements. We've received a lot of information in the past 3 days. The truth is just as you expected. The demon army's defense line has suffered heavy losses. You also killed the deputy general. Now, the morale of the demon army has fallen. However, they still have 2 million soldiers. It's impossible for them to give up on attacking Heavenly Lion Pass. They have elected a new deputy general to continue managing the military affairs. Now, the 2 million demon army has retreated 1,000 miles. They are divided into 4 camps to form a defensive line. According to this general's guess, they won't be able to counterattack in the near future. It's more likely that they are pulling back their defenses and trying to stay in a stalemate with us. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment, then revealed a cold smile. The deputy general and the top demon generals have been killed. Now, only a few defeated soldiers are left. Of course, they will be holed up in the fort. If they want to break through and turn defeat into victory, they can only seek the help of saint-level experts. Only saint-level experts can kill me, the deputy general, and resolve the demon army's troubles. Xie Wen quickly cupped his hands and said, General Ji, please don't worry. This general has already passed down the order. Heavenly Lion Pass will be doubly guarded. The demon assassins will definitely not be able to sneak in and harm you. These are all useless. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, only demon saints can kill me. How can you stop them? You only need to guard against the demon army's assassins or the blood god scions. 2 days later, Benshui will give the demon army a heavy blow and further weaken their strength. When the demon army's reinforcements arrive, Benshui will fight the demon saints and completely defeat the demon army. In less than half a month, the outcome will be revealed. Xie Wen's body shook. He exclaimed in disbelief, so fast. You won't understand even if I tell you. Leave. Ji Tianqing did not explain. He waved his hand and dismissed Xie Wen. Xie Wen bowed and left the secret room. After he left, Ji Tianqing clenched his fists, and a cold look appeared on his face. Ancestor Demon God. You're holed up in the Blood Sea Abyss. Even the Luo Shui clone can't do anything to you. I think you'll recover your deity realm soon. But you're still alone. I'll lure the demon saints under your command one by one and cut off your left and right arms. Let's see how you'll stir up trouble then. After I break through to Martial Saint, I'll personally kill my way into North Underworld Mountain and teach you the most painful lesson. Very quickly, 2 days passed. In the middle of the night, Ji Tianqing led his 200,000 elite soldiers to attack. This time, his target was not the stronghold or the demon army camp. Instead, it was the military camp at the rear. The demon army's rations and military equipment were stored there. There were also more than 300,000 injured demon army soldiers recuperating there. Ji Tianqing led the army and circled thousands of miles before arriving at the military camp. He used the same strategy as before. He sneaked into the camp alone and assassinated the demon army's generals and experts. He created chaos and disaster and destroyed the defensive formation. When the demon army camp was in chaos, the 200,000 elite soldiers would take the opportunity to kill their way in. Naturally, they would be victorious. In any case, Ji Tianqing was sure that there was no demon saint expert in the demon army camp. With his strength and methods, he was in an invincible position. He could do whatever he wanted. No one could stop him. Chapter 2087. The Devil Race's military camp outside the pass had been wiped out by Ji Tianqing. The military equipment and cultivation resources stored there could only be used by the demons, so Ji Tianqing destroyed them all. The 300,000 some injured demon race soldiers were also wiped out. This battle dealt too great of a blow to the demons' morale, cutting off their path of retreat. The remaining 2 million strong demon race army was plunged into fear and despair. Without a commander and a large number of experts, without resources and reinforcements, how could they fight this battle? Seeing that the time was right, Ji Tianqing quickened his pace of attack, preparing to end the battle quickly. For 10 days, the flames of war burned incessantly outside Heavenly Lion Pass. Every 2 or 3 days, reports of victory would come from outside the pass. Ji Tianqing swept through the entire battlefield in an invincible manner. He took down 2 devil race camps and 4 checkpoints in succession. The demon race suffered innumerable casualties, losing more than 1,200,000 men. 10 days later, the demon race only had 700,000 some soldiers left, defending Flowing River Valley in Mount Flying Bear. The human soldiers were also exhausted and needed to rest and recuperate. With the battle developing to this point, the demons' defeat was already a foregone conclusion. Even if Ji Tianqing withdrew now, the demons would not be able to turn the tide, much less charge into Heavenly Lion Pass. But Ji Tianqing would not leave now. His goal had not been achieved. He ordered the soldiers to rest in Heavenly Lion Pass for 3 days. 3 days later, he would lead the army to attack Flowing River Valley and completely crush the demon race army. Mount Flying Bear had 300,000 some demon soldiers garrisoned there, while Flowing River Valley had 400,000 some. As long as he could take Flowing River Valley and kill those 400,000 some demon soldiers, this battle would be over. The 300,000 some demon soldiers on Mount Flying Bear would definitely flee in defeat. After the news spread, Heavenly Lion Pass was filled with jubilation. The 1,000,000 soldiers were overjoyed, their hearts filled with anticipation. At the same time, the scouts and scouts of the demon race also heard the news. Flowing River Valley was extremely tense, the atmosphere extremely grave. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On the morning of the 4th day, Ji Tianqing gathered 5 generals and over 100 commanders and set off with 500,000 elite soldiers. Before they set out for battle, Lu Baishuang personally sent the soldiers off and even had a private conversation with Ji Tianqing. In this half a month, Lu Baishuang had been guarding Sky Lion Pass and had not left. Even if Ji Tianqing deliberately angered her and used words to squeeze her, she refused to leave. In any case, she was determined to stay in the Heavenly Lion Pass and personally supervise Ji Tianqing. Later, Ji Tianqing saw that she was very stubborn, so he stopped bickering with her. He wholeheartedly threw himself into the battle. Apart from resting and recuperating, he was also discussing important military matters with his generals. He was too lazy to talk to Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang, however, pretended not to notice his coldness. Every day, he stayed by his side, watching him handle military affairs and discuss strategy with the generals. Most of the time, she would remain silent and watch Ji Tianqing quietly. Only at crucial moments would she open her mouth to say a few words, but they were all very important and decisive. The relationship between the two of them became very subtle and could not be described in words. Xia Wen, Zhong Lin, and a few other generals could vaguely see the signs, but they did not dare to show it. They could only discuss it in private. On one side was the owner of the Empire of White Frost, the only empress in the God Kingdom, the most respected Holy Emperor. On the other hand, there was a valiant and victorious demon, the god of war that the generals worshipped the most. In the hearts of all the generals, they also hoped that the two of them would create some sparks and form a good marriage. After all, if these two experts were to be together, the future of the Empire of White Frost would be limitless. However, they could only think about it. No one dared to say it out loud. Now, Ji Tianqing was leading 500,000 elite soldiers to the Manchuan Valley, while Lu Baishuang stayed behind to guard Sky Lion Pass. She stood on the tower at the peak of the mountain and watched Ji Tianqing's back disappear into the distance. Her expression gradually became gloomy. A faint look of disappointment flashed across her bright and clear eyes. This was because she knew that with Ji Tianqing's ability, he would definitely win this battle. After Ji Tianqing's triumphant return, the crisis of Sky Lion Pass would be resolved, and he would also leave. It had been less than a month since Ji Tianqing came to Sky Lion Pass. Lu Baishuang had just gotten close to him and trusted him. Before she could have a deeper understanding of him, he was leaving. This made Lu Baishuang feel a trace of regret in her heart that could not be erased. At dusk, the sky was filled with gray clouds, and the world was dark. Outside the Manchuan Valley, there were desolate mountain ranges in all directions. Above the mountainside, there was snow and ice. The deep and wide valley was enveloped by a huge blood-colored barrier. It was a light shield with a radius of 200 miles. Only a saint-level array could achieve such an effect. As early as half a year ago, when the demon army had occupied this place, they had set up a saint-level array here to protect the demon army's camp. Now, the 400,000 demon soldiers in the camp were all in a state of panic, unable to sit or stand still. The patrolling guards inside and outside the array were more than 3 times as many as before. Hundreds of defensive arrays had been added in various parts of the camp, and dozens of fortifications had been built. The entire Manchuan Valley camp was in a state of extreme alert. At this time, Ji Tianqing arrived with 500,000 elite soldiers. Under his command, 5 generals each led 100,000 elite soldiers and hid in the surroundings of the Manchuan Valley. He acted alone, entering the Manchuan Valley in an invisible state. It was the same old method. He used the Armillary Heaven's secret art, and his figure and aura merged with heaven and earth. After silently entering the Manchuan Valley, he spent an hour to break the saint-level array. Then, he flew across the gloomy sky and arrived above the camp, silently investigating the situation. Although demon chi lingered in the camp, and defensive arrays were everywhere. But under the probing of his divine sense, those demon army soldiers hiding in the camps and arrays had nowhere to hide. He quickly saw that the 9 camps distributed in the outer ring of the valley were all ordinary demon army soldiers. Many demon generals lived in a palace built of black stone in the center, but their positions were not high and their strength was very ordinary. Only the 3 lofty black palaces in the center had 20-some tribulation transcending realm demon experts, all of them generals of the demon lord. Upon seeing this situation, Ji Tianqing couldn't help but frown, a hint of confusion flashing through his eyes. Logically speaking, I've already fought for 20-some days, taken down so many forts and checkpoints, and slaughtered so many demon army soldiers. The demons should have sent word long ago, and the demon saint experts should have arrived. 3 days ago, I sent word that I was going to attack the Manchuan Valley, so the demons should have known. Otherwise, the demon camp's defenses wouldn't have been strengthened by 3 times. But why hasn't that demon saint expert appeared? There isn't even a shred of the chi of a saint-level expert in the camp. Everything had developed according to Ji Tianqing's predictions. Chapter 2088. Could it be that the demon saints of Dark North Mountain have all been killed or injured, and no one has come to reinforce them? Ji Tianqing frowned and muttered to himself, the great demon saint and the 3 demon saints were injured by the Luoshui clone and must be recuperating in Dark North Mountain. I killed the 4 demon saint, Patriarch Xuepao, and the newly ascended Azura demon saint. I used the heavenly demon seed Jade Art to be reborn. Only the 2nd demon saint, Tsangyu, is still alive. He has been overseeing the northern battlefield and presiding over the overall situation. Thinking of this, he gradually relaxed and muttered to himself, Demon Saint Tsangyu leads an army of 10 million demons and has to manage several war zones. Perhaps he really can't split himself and can't reinforce the demon army. If that's the case, then tonight's battle will be decided. The battle at Heavenly Lion Pass will also come to an end. Ji Tianqing collected his thoughts and flew toward the palace in the middle. Whoosh! He silently passed through the defensive formation and entered the pitch-black palace. The passageways, doors, and windows of the palace were all lit with dark red gemstones, and the air was filled with black fog and demon chi. The main roads were guarded by demon guards. All of them were tall and sturdy, fierce warriors dressed in armor. However, Ji Tianqing swaggered past them without being noticed. There were a total of 6 tribulation-transcending realm generals living in this palace, and they were scattered on the first and second floor. In addition, there were several hundred messengers and patrolling guards. Ji Tianqing's goal was very clear. He passed through a stone wall and entered a room. This room was a study, and there were bookshelves around it, piled with many jade slips and letters. A muscular middle-aged demon race expert in black armor was sitting in front of a stone table, reading letters and handling military affairs. Ji Tianqing appeared behind him without making a sound. He quietly shot out a beam of holy white light, which enveloped the person. Whoosh! This middle-aged demon general was completely unprepared and could not resist at all. He was immediately sealed by the white light. His body stiffened and his eyes widened. His face was filled with fear, but he couldn't make a sound. The sacred white light had the effect of purifying all demon energy, and it quickly purified his demon energy. His body melted like snow, disappearing at a visible speed. In a few short breaths, his body disappeared without a trace, and even his soul was purified. From start to finish, the study was very quiet, and there was no sound at all. After the middle-aged demon general was killed, there was no trace left behind, as if nothing had happened. After dealing with a demon general, Ji Tianqing withdrew his right hand and walked toward another room not far away. There was a secret room where a black-robed demon race expert was meditating on a throne made of skeletons. Ji Tianqing passed through the stone wall and entered the secret room. The black-robed demon general was completely demon energy, was the demon saint realm god of the abyss. The corner of Ji Tianqing's mouth curled up into a sneer. He walked in front of the black-robed demon general, waved his palm, and released a golden light, slapping towards his head. The god, the demon god, the demon saint god, he god, demon god. But at this time, the black-robed devil general suddenly woke up. He opened his eyes and stared at Ji Tianqing. His purple bell-like eyes were filled with calmness and killing intent. Not only was he not panicking, he even had a sinister sneer on his face. Clearly, he had expected Ji Tianqing to attack. At this moment, Ji Tianqing's pupils constricted as well, and he cursed in his heart. As expected, just as this thought flashed through his mind, the black-robed demon general attacked. He raised his fists as fast as lightning and slammed them into Ji Tianqing's chest. Bam! With a dull explosion, Ji Tianqing was sent flying, crashing into the secret room's wall. Crash! The solid black stone wall was smashed into smithereens, sending countless pieces of stone flying. The secret room was also on the verge of collapse, and dust filled the air. Ji Tianqing felt a stabbing pain in his chest, and a warm feeling flowed down his throat. Blood immediately seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He used his energy to blast away the pieces of stone around him as he looked coldly into the secret room. I used the Armillary Heaven secret technique and merged my body with heaven and earth. This person was able to determine my position and even injure me. He is definitely a demon saint. Only a saint-level expert can do that. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing immediately understood. He had been ambushed. It was not that the demon saint expert did not come to his aid, but that he had used a magic treasure to hide his aura and hide in the camp, waiting for him to walk into the trap. At the same time, the black-robed demon general slowly stood up. His purple eyes burned with flames, and his body exuded an extremely sharp and cold aura. He took off his black cloak and revealed his original appearance. Swoosh! A 10-meter-tall devil race expert appeared in front of Ji Tianqing. His body was thin and tough, and he looked like a devil wolf. This person was completely black, and his thick hair shone with a cold light. He had a pair of strong arms, a pair of sharp claws, and a triangular purple eye on his chest. He had a pair of black wings on his back, and a large tail that dragged on the ground. Rather than calling him a demon wolf, it was more accurate to say that he was a werewolf evolved from a demon wolf. Ji Tianqing stared at him. Sensing his powerful aura, he was even more certain that he was a demon saint. 4 of the 5 demon saints of North Underworld Mountain have been crippled. Only the second demon saint, Sangyu, is left. He is still bitterly holding on in the northern battlefield. Ji Tianqing wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his sleeve. He stared at the demon and asked coldly, "If I'm not wrong, you are Sangyu, right?" "Ha ha ha. You are indeed worthy of the title of the #1 genius of the human race, Ji Tianqing." Sangyu grinned coldly and said in a sinister tone, "Originally, I was in charge of all military affairs in the northern battlefield. Naturally, I would not rush to the rescue just because of a defeat in a battle zone. However, you are different. You are the greatest enemy of my race, the most hated thorn in the side of our ancestors. When I received the news that you had appeared in the Heavenly Lion Pass, I immediately rushed over. Even if I have to put down all military affairs and travel day and night for more than 20 days, I will still come and take your head with my own hands." Ji Tianqing knew that Demon Saint Sangyu's strength was second only to Great Demon Saint Ling Xian. He had reached the rank 7 Martial Sage realm. Although he had killed Ancestor Xuepao and defeated Azura Demon Saint, he was not confident that he could kill Sangyu. "Sangyu, it seems that you knew that I was going to attack River Valley and set up an ambush here. In order not to expose yourself, you did not set up a defensive array and hid your identity in aura. You hid here and waited for me. Even the demon race soldiers in River Valley did not know that you were here. Of course, they would not reveal any flaws." Chapter 2089. How can I deal with you, Ji Tianqing, without putting in some effort? As long as I can get rid of you, I have plenty of patience. Sangyu sneered, and his tone was venomous. Ji Tianqing also sneered and said in a playful tone, "Although the process was a little complicated, the result is still the same. No matter what, it's good that you're here. It saves me the trouble of looking for you." As he said that, he exuded a murderous aura, confidence, and dominance. Sangyu examined him closely and sneered disdainfully, "What? Do you think you can kill me with your strength and lead the Luoshui kingdom to victory?" Ji Tianqing slowly stretched out his right hand. There was a flash of light in his palm, and the sword of burial of heaven appeared. "Isn't that so?" "Ha ha ha." Sangyu laughed loudly, and his tone was full of contempt and disdain. "Ji Tianqing. You're too arrogant. I'll let you know that I'm not someone that Patriarch Xuepao and Ji Xiolua can compare to. You want to kill me? Not even in your next life." As soon as he said that, Sangyu attacked. His palms shot out a thick fog that was as black as ink. Swoosh! The thick fog spread out and covered a radius of 300 feet. In this area, there were 2 corridors and 3 rooms, but there was no one in sight. Ji Tianqing immediately understood that demon sage Sangyu had been prepared. In the next instant, the pitch-black demonic fog sealed off this area, forming a domain. From the outside, it looked like an area of 300 feet that was sealed by the black fog. However, Ji Tianqing could see that it was a territory when he was in it. It was a dark void that spanned a few hundred miles, and there was only darkness in all directions. Only 2 huge green eyeballs were suspended in the void above his head. They were like 2 large fireballs that emitted a green light. Sangyu stood in the void and looked down at Ji Tianqing. He said arrogantly, "Ji Tianqing, do you think I'll fight with you in the barracks and implicate my soldiers? Too naive. This is my Azure Soul domain. In here, I am the undefeatable ruler. Your life is in my hands. You will definitely die here today." Ji Tianqing frowned and looked gloomily at Sangyu. He secretly probed with his spiritual sense. He quickly discovered that the realm of the Azure Soul was extremely mysterious. It was abnormally sturdy and contained an extremely powerful demonic power. Being in this domain, Sangyu's combat strength doubled. Furthermore, his strength was inexhaustible. Not only was he being suppressed by the power of the domain, but he was also being corroded by the invisible poisonous gas and attacked by the soul's secret technique. Before he even started fighting with Tsangyu, the Azure Soul domain was constantly releasing soul attacks, desperately stabbing at his soul. He felt dizzy, and his consciousness became blurry. He. Domain. Even a crossing Calamity Realm martial artist would disdain to use such a method. How dare you use it to embarrass yourself? Ji Tianqing sneered disdainfully. He waved the sword of burial of heaven in his right hand and slashed at Tsangyu with all his might. Heaven cleaving sword. As he shouted coldly, a 300-meter-long silver sword light lit up and slashed at Tsangyu with a violent force. The silver sword light was condensed from the star divine fire. It was extremely violent and powerful. Tsangyu looked at the huge sword slashing at him. He raised his right fist confidently and punched out. Break! A blood-red fist shadow that was as large as a mountain hit the starry sword light with a loud bang, causing an earth-shattering explosion. However, the sword light and fist shadow shattered at the same time. They turned into thousands of light fragments and scattered in the void. Ji Tianqing's ultimate sword technique had been easily broken by Tsangyu. Ji Tianqing, if this is all you have, you should admit defeat and accept your death. Tsangyu bellowed contemptuously. He waved his fists again and instantly blasted out 36 blood-red fist shadows at Ji Tianqing. Destroy! Every blood-red fist shadow was as large as a mountain and contained the power to destroy everything. The 36 fist shadows blasted out at the same time and arranged themselves in a mysterious demonic formation. Their power increased by several times. In an instant, Ji Tianqing was drowned by the fist shadows. It was as if he had fallen into a sea of blood. However, he did not panic in the face of danger. He used all his strength and slashed at Tsangyu with the sword of burial of heaven. Star shattering. The sword of burial of heaven shone brightly with silver light mixed with 5-colored divine lightning. 49 slashes were unleashed in an instant. Bang! 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 49 sword lights collided with 36 fist lights, producing a series of loud, muffled sounds that reverberated intensely in the void. The sword lights and fist shadows collapsed at the same time. They exploded into millions of fragments and danced in the void. It was a dazzling sight. The violent and shocking shockwave fiercely struck Ji Tianqing and Tsangyu, forcing them to retreat 3,000 meters. When Tsangyu saw that Ji Tianqing was safe and sound, his pupils constricted. He bellowed, "Little B****, you still have such strength in my Azure Soul territory? I underestimated you before. No wonder you dared to be so arrogant. However, this is not enough to save your life. Let's see what else you can do." As he spoke, Tsangyu waved his hands and formed a mysterious incantation. He controlled the territory to attack. Suddenly, tens of thousands of blood-red sharp blades and hundreds of shadow fiend wolves as large as mountains appeared in the void. Countless blood-red blades that were as sharp as fire were arranged into a mighty sword formation that pressed down on Ji Tianqing. Hundreds of shadow fiend wolves as large as mountains roared ferociously. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced at Ji Tianqing. Even the 2 dark green eyeballs in the void shot out beams of dark green light, aiming at Ji Tianqing's vital points. Invisibly, there were many sharp spiritual soul blades that stabbed at Ji Tianqing's spiritual soul. He was immediately in danger and was surrounded by danger. The situation was critical and he had no choice but to use the spherical heaven secret skill. He stepped on the 7 steps of the demonic dragon and dashed left and right in the void. Swoosh 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 swoosh. Every moment, his body would flash a few times and move to different positions. The blood-red light blades, the dark green light, and the claws of the shadow fiend wolves always brushed past him. He dodged all of them. Tsangyu saw that Su Mo had a unique skill and was difficult to deal with. His face turned grave and the hatred in his eyes grew. He used all his strength to control the territory and unleashed his strongest attack. In a short period of time, Ji Tianqing had dodged tens of thousands of attacks. His life was hanging by a thread each time. However, his strength was low and he had not broken through to the martial sage realm. In the end, he was hit by a blood-red sharp blade. Swoosh! A 3-foot-long blood-red sharp blade brushed past his back. It tore his white robe and left a bloody wound on his back. Fortunately, the wound was shallow and did not hurt his bones. Only blood seeped out. However, the wound immediately turned as black as charcoal and was about to rot into ashes. Chapter 2090. Although they were all demon sages, there were differences in their strength, talents, and skills. Ji Tianqing was a half-step to martial sage, but he had cultivated many secret skills of the divine path and had mastered various trump cards. As such, his true combat strength was comparable to that of a rank 4 or 5 martial sage. He had used all his strength to kill Ancestor Xuepao and Azura Demon Sage. How difficult would it be to defeat Demon Sage Cangyu? Cangyu, you probably don't know that I use the wind-fire calamity to temper my body every time I go through the calamity. After going through the 9 calamities, my physical body has been tempered to the extreme. With the help of the supreme secret skill of body tempering, my body is indestructible. Do you think you can harm me with the soul-devouring poison? Ji Tianqing stared coldly at Cangyu and sneered, "Put away these useless and despicable tricks." As he spoke, he used his powers to heal his wounds and they immediately healed. Cangyu used his spiritual consciousness to check on Su Mo and saw that the wounds on his back had healed instantly. Not only had the wounds healed and the blood stopped flowing, but even the flesh that had been corroded and turned black had recovered. Cangyu was shocked and shouted in disbelief, "This is impossible. Who in the world dares to use the calamity to temper their body? You are crazy." Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a cold smile and he said in a mocking tone, "The world is big and there are all kinds of strange things. It is not something you can imagine. No matter how capable you are, I am already in an invincible position. You should give up as soon as possible." Su Mo's tone was full of confidence, causing Cangyu's face to change drastically and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Even if your physical body is strong, I don't believe that your spiritual soul can be so powerful." As he spoke, Cangyu formed hand seals with both hands. In the blink of an eye, he formed 12 hand seals and executed an ultimate secret technique. Soul-slashing sickle. The Azure Soul territory, which had a radius of a few hundred miles, immediately released a terrifying spiritual power, which condensed into a huge black sickle. The sickle was 1,000 feet long and as black as ink. It was filled with a cold death aura like the weapon of the Grim Reaper. Slash! Cangyu roared angrily and pointed at Ji Tianqing with both hands. The huge soul-slaying scythe immediately slashed down from the sky towards Ji Tianqing. At the same time, the realm of the Azure Soul erupted with a powerful suppressive force, suppressing Ji Tianqing. It was as if he had been sealed in ice. His body stood stiffly on the spot, unable to move at all. At this moment, Cangyu gave it his all and unleashed his strongest ultimate move. Ji Tianqing was unable to break free or escape. He could only watch helplessly as the soul-slaying scythe slashed down. Although his physical body was strong, the soul-slaying scythe was an illusory soul attack. It would not be obstructed by his physical body and would directly slay his soul. If his divine soul was shattered, he would die without a doubt. After Cangyu finished casting the spell, he stared at Ji Tianqing with a scorching gaze and revealed a cruel sneer. He. So what if your physical body is strong? I'll directly destroy your divine soul and scatter your soul. In the next instant, the soul-slaying scythe slashed down on Ji Tianqing. The strange soul-slaying scythe passed through his body without any hindrance and slashed towards the divine soul golden sword in his mind. However, an even more unbelievable scene occurred. Just as the soul-slaying scythe was about to strike the divine soul golden sword, the divine soul golden sword suddenly lit up with a white light that shot into the sky. Swoosh! That holy, gentle, and pure white brilliance blossomed like fireworks, protecting Ji Tianqing's entire body. Boom! There was an earth-shattering sound of thunder. The soul-slaying scythe was shaken by the white light and collapsed on the spot. The huge soul-slaying scythe turned into thousands of wisps of black gas that drifted into the void. Ji Tianqing was unscathed, but Song Yu suffered from the recoil. He staggered back a few steps as blood seeped out of his nose and mouth. He had used the power of his soul to cast the soul-slaying scythe. Now that the soul-slaying scythe had been destroyed, he naturally suffered from the recoil. His divine soul was shaken, his consciousness blurred, and his vision turned black. Moreover, the entire Azure Soul domain was shaking, and cracks appeared on the edges. Song Yu was shocked and furious. He stared at Ji Tianqing in horror and roared at the top of his lungs, "No! This is impossible! What kind of method did you use to actually block my killing blow?" Song Yu could clearly sense that the sacred white light was like divine power. It contained unparalleled divine power and had a natural suppressive effect on demonic power. He could not believe that this was a power that Ji Tianqing could control. Only Ji Tianqing knew that it was the divine light released by the heaven-mending pearl. With the heaven-mending pearl protecting his divine soul, no one in the world could harm his divine soul. This was what he meant by being invincible. You're just a little great demon saint. To the world, you're just a drop in the ocean, an ant. There are too many things that you won't believe and can't imagine. Ji Tianqing sneered disdainfully. He swung the burial of heaven again and charged at Song Yu. God-slaying sword. This was the 8th sword of the burial of heaven's 9 swords. Its power was terrifying. If Ji Tianqing broke through to the immortal state, this sword could kill an immortal. 3 giant swords that were thousands of feet long and surrounded by lightning slashed at Song Yu. At that moment, the void domain within a few hundred miles was illuminated by colorful lightning. It was gorgeous. Song Yu's divine soul was injured, and his mind was unstable. He wanted to dodge in a hurry, but he could not. He only managed to dodge 2 sword beams, but he was still hit by the 3rd giant sword. Bam! With a deafening sound, Song Yu was sent flying by the giant sword and crashed into the edge of the void domain. A deep wound was left on his chest, revealing the dark purple demonic bone inside. Blood gushed out like a stream. Fortunately, he was powerful and managed to dodge the fatal blow. If he had been slightly slower, the giant sword would have hit his head and destroyed his physical body. Demon Sage Song Yu, who was a rank 7 martial sage, had been severely injured by Ji Tianqing and ended up in such a sorry state. He was so humiliated and furious that he let out a hysterical roar. Ji Tianqing! I swear to tear you into pieces and burn your bones to ashes. Humph! You're so angry that you're starting to speak crazy words. Ji Tianqing attacked Song Yu with his sword, causing sword beams to fill the sky. He continued to provoke Song Yu with words. If you immediately give the order for all the demon race in the north to return to North Underworld Mountain, I can spare your lowly life. Otherwise, you will follow in the footsteps of ancestor Xue Pao and Ji Xiulua and die under my sword. By then, the 5 great demon sages will either be dead or crippled. The ancestor demon god's wings will be cut off and he will not be far from death. Song Yu was furious. He roared and cursed as he attacked Ji Tianqing with all his might. You're delusional. The ancestor demon god is a noble and unparalleled god. He is an existence that looks down on the galaxy. How can a worm like you be a match for him? Aren't you so anxious because you are worried that the people of Luoshui Holy Kingdom will be slaughtered? Ha ha ha. This seat wants to see the look on your face when you're enraged, yet unable to do anything. Chapter 2091. Back in the central state, Ji Tianqing had seen the evil nature of the demon race. He hated the demon race so much that he would not rest until one of them was dead. A cold-blooded, murderous, and inhumane race like the demon race should not exist in the world. He had sworn long ago that he would kill all the demon race in the world. He would take revenge for himself and his friends, for the races of the world, and for the common people. Zhang Yu, you've lost your mind to madness. Die. Ji Tianqing swung his sword with his right hand, sending out thousands of cold starlight. The thousands of sword lights formed a formation to attack Zhang Yu. At the same time, his left palm sent out endless golden light, forming a golden dragon that shot forward. Celestial Dragon Palm. Bam! The 1,000-foot-long golden dragon slammed into Zhang Yu and sent him flying. The thousands of starlight sword lights enveloped his figure and furiously attacked him. When he retreated 10 kilometers away and destroyed the sword lights that covered the sky, a few tens of bloody scars had appeared all over his body, and he was dripping with blood. The tide of the battle had turned. The blue soul domain could no longer suppress Ji Tianqing. Zhang Yu's injuries worsened, and his strength rapidly weakened. He knew that if he continued to fight Ji Tianqing, his situation would only worsen. He was forced into a corner, so he no longer had any scruples and used his last forbidden secret technique. Demon Wolf Transformation. Zhang Yu's eyes turned red in anger, and his body burned with bloody flames. Roar! In an instant, his body turned into a cloud of black mist and spread out in the void. The next moment, he became 1,000-foot tall, pitch-black demon wolf as large as a mountain. This was the legendary Nine-Hell demon wolf, as famous as the three-headed hellhound. They were both ancient demon beasts that guarded the nether world. The nine-headed demon wolf's body was lithe and majestic. Its 4 thick hooves stepped on dark green flames, and its fur was surrounded by dark blue soul fire. It had 3 eyes, 2 as red as snow, and 1 enormous eye on its forehead. It was as frightening as a pitch-black abyss. There was also a pair of wings on the back of his shoulder blades. When they were spread out, they were incomparably wide. They were more than 3,000 feet wide and seemed to be able to cover the sky and cover the sun. The nine-nether demonic wolf raised its head and roared. It descended from the sky and pounced towards Ji Tianqing. It actually spoke human language and roared with overflowing killing intent. Ji Tianqing. You forced me to do this. Every time I burn my blood soul and transform into a 9 underworld demonic wolf, my vitality will be greatly damaged and I will lose 100 years of my cultivation. My strength and realm will also drop. But in order to kill you, it was all worth it. Just as he finished speaking, the 9-nether demon wolf had already pounced in front of Ji Tianqing, waving its huge front claws and smashing down fiercely. Ask the heavens with the horizontal sword. Ji Tianqing hurriedly raised the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and raised it above his head, assuming a defensive posture. A gigantic sword shadow that was thousands of feet long appeared above his head, blocking all attacks. Boom! The 9 netherworld demonic wolf's claws slammed down, instantly shattering the pitch-black sword shadow and sending him flying. While he was still tumbling in the void, his face was already pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Ji Tianqing's eyes flashed with intense shock and disbelief. Is this the power of an ancient demon's secret technique? Zhang Yu was originally a 7th-stage demon saint, but after transforming into a 9-nether demon wolf, his strength increased by more than 5 times. Right now, his strength has reached the 8th-stage demon saint, which is comparable to the great demon Saint Ling Xian. In addition to the shock in his heart, Ji Tianqing became even more cautious. He hurriedly circulated his cultivation to suppress his injuries and waved his palm to release the 5-colored divine thunder, forcing the 9-nether demon wolf to retreat. However, the 9-nether demon wolf was incomparably strange. Its figure flashed and disappeared into the void. In the next moment, it actually teleported 100 miles and appeared behind Ji Tianqing. Little bastard, go to hell. The nine nether demon wolf roared and slammed its claws down from the sky towards Ji Tianqing's head. The two of them were too close. Ji Tianqing sensed that something was wrong and wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Heavenly Dragon Slash. At this critical moment, he could only hold the sword of burial of heaven tightly with both hands and use all his strength to release the heaven-splitting dragon shadow. Roar! The huge sword light carried the sacred heavenly dragon shadow and let out a sonorous dragon roar as it brazenly struck the nine nether demon wolf. Bam! With a loud explosion, the huge sword and the heavenly dragon shadow were smashed into pieces at the same time, creating a destructive shockwave. The nine nether demon wolf was also sent flying and tumbled into the void 20 miles away. However, its figure was still in mid-air when it disappeared with a whoosh. Immediately after, Ji Tianqing felt the aura of death approaching, and his back was covered in cold sweat. He didn't need to turn around to look. His divine consciousness had already discovered that the ferocious nine nether demon wolf was quietly appearing behind him. The nine nether demon wolf opened its bloody mouth and spat out a torrent of soul fire that poured down like a flood. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing could only hold the sword of burial of heaven tightly with both hands and use his secret technique. Black Tortoise Sacred Sword. The sword of burial of heaven bloomed with endless black light and condensed into a huge black tortoise phantom that protected Ji Tianqing. Boom boom boom. The torrential blue soul fire poured down and fiercely bombarded the black tortoise phantom, creating a series of muffled thunderous sounds. After 2 breaths, the blue soul fire dissipated. The black tortoise phantom was also defeated. Ji Tianqing's body was burned by the soul fire in more than 10 places, and he was in extreme pain. However, he gritted his teeth and held on, not letting out a cry of pain, and circulated his energy to get rid of the soul fire. After 10 breaths, even the dozens of charred wounds on his body were quickly healed. He continued to fight with the nine nether demon wolf, carefully dealing with it. The nine nether demon wolf was eager to kill him, so it attacked wildly without caring about anything, and its power was extremely terrifying. He didn't fight the nine nether demon wolf head-on, but used the mysterious heavenly dragon's 7 steps to circle around it. This way, it was effective. No matter how fierce the nine nether demon wolf was, it couldn't do anything to him for a while. He was occasionally hit by the nine nether demon wolf a few times, but he only suffered light injuries. With the powerful recovery ability of the undying body, he could quickly recover to his original state. As time passed, 45 minutes quickly passed. Ji Tianqing and the nine nether demon wolf had exchanged tens of thousands of blows, and they had consumed more than half of their spiritual energy, and their strength became weaker and weaker. Especially the nine nether demon wolf, its aura became more chaotic and manic. It roared angrily and pounced on Ji Tianqing, but Ji Tianqing always dodged it. Finally, the nine nether demon wolf seemed to have a premonition and made up its mind. Its aura suddenly erupted to the extreme, and endless black light accumulated in the third eye on its forehead. Ji Tianqing, goodbye. It grinned coldly, and the third eye of the netherworld released a mysterious black light beam, which fiercely bombarded Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing's expression suddenly changed, and his pupils shrank as a thought appeared in his mind. This is the power of annihilation. When he was going through the tribulation, he had seen the terrifying power of annihilation. This was a power that surpassed the heavenly wind, astral fire, heavenly lightning, and stars, and represented destruction and death. No matter how strong his physical body was, it was impossible to block the bombardment of this annihilation light beam. But he didn't have the corresponding ultimate move to block it. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing could only attack. He raised his right palm and released endless golden light. Chapter 2092. The dazzling god-slaying spear was surrounded by golden flames. With the power to pierce through everything, it collided with the annihilation light pillar. Boom! Crack! There was a thunderous sound that reverberated in the void for hundreds of miles. At that moment, time seemed to have slowed down by dozens of times. Ji Tianqing and Song Yu could see with their own eyes that the god-slaying spear pierced through the mysterious annihilation light pillar. The 300-meter-long annihilation light pillar started to crack. It turned into millions of black fragments that scattered in the void. In a short moment, the god-slaying spear pierced all the way through and completely destroyed the 300-meter-long annihilation light pillar. At the same time, the god-slaying spear's power was completely exhausted. It turned into specks of golden light and dissipated in the void. Ji Tianqing's trump card had finally blocked Song Yu's final attack. As it turned out, he had made the right choice. Song Yu saw the annihilation light pillar shatter with his own eyes. His heart turned cold. Disappointment and anger surged in his eyes. However, this was already his final trump card. His time was up. Swoosh! Just as the black fragments scattered in the sky, his figure disappeared into the void. He had quietly escaped. The next moment, he had escaped from the Azure Soul Domain and appeared in the sky above the demon army camp. However, he did not stop. With a flap of his huge wings, he streaked across the night sky like a black shadow and disappeared into the horizon. There were many patrolling guards in the demon army camp. They all saw this scene. However, everyone could only see a black shadow streaking across the sky above the Manchuan Valley. Then, it disappeared without a trace. Most people did not know what was going on. Only a few of the stronger ones could vaguely see that the black shadow seemed to be a black demon wolf that was as huge as a mountain. At the same time, the Azure Soul Domain suddenly shrank and exploded with the strongest suppressive power. Ji Tianqing knew that Song Yu had escaped. He was about to break out of the Azure Soul Domain to chase after him. Unfortunately, there was a powerful force coming from all directions. It was as if the sky and earth were collapsing and pressing down on him. He was in a hurry to kill Song Yu. He could only enter the Sword of Burial of Heaven and rush out with all his might. Shwa! The Sword of Burial of Heaven, which was surrounded by silver flames, passed through the void with great difficulty and was about to penetrate the barrier of the domain. But at this moment, the Azure Soul Domain exploded. Boom! The realm of the Azure Soul exploded with green flames and icy blue soul fire. Like a huge mushroom cloud, it rose in the Devil Army camp. An earth-shattering boom shook the entire valley, causing everything within a radius of 1,000 miles to shake. Countless ravines appeared on the ground, and the surrounding mountain peaks also cracked, causing countless rocks and soil to collapse. As for the Devil Army camp, it was even more devastating. The few palaces in the middle were all blown to ashes, and the hundreds of houses and buildings in the surroundings were all blown into ruins. It was only after the soaring soul flames and smoke had dispersed that the swaying river valley finally calmed down. In the center of the valley, there was a huge pit that was 100 miles wide, like an abyss. At least 100,000 demon race soldiers died in this explosion, blown to smithereens. The entire flowing river valley was thrown into chaos, plunging into extreme fear. Countless devil race soldiers surged out of the camp, searching for their commanders and blindly searching for the attacker. But the 300,000 soldiers were in chaos, and they could not find the cause. They would never imagine that the person who had caused this disaster and chaos was their commander and leader. In the pitch-black pit that was 100 miles wide in the middle of the flowing river valley, the Sword of Burial of Heaven flashed with black light as it burrowed out of the soil and rubble. Shwa! With a flash of light, Ji Tianqing flew out of the sword and stood in the night sky. He held the Sword of Burial of Heaven and carefully examined it. Seeing that the Sword of Burial of Heaven was undamaged, he was relieved. Fortunately, you have become a sacred sword, so you were not injured by the Azure Soul Domain. As he spoke, he looked around at his surroundings. Seeing the flowing river valley in a mess, with broken walls everywhere, and the demon soldiers in a mess, he couldn't help but frown. Song Yu is truly vicious. In order to successfully escape and prevent me from pursuing him, he did not hesitate to detonate the Azure Soul Domain. Even if he destroyed the defenses and camps of the flowing river valley, causing the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Devil Race soldiers, he did not care. The Sword of Burial of Heaven withdrew its light and immediately calmed down. The Sword of Burial of Heaven's voice sounded in Ji Tianqing's mind. This is not your first day in contact with the Devil Race. Is it strange that Song Yu would do this? Ji Tianqing did not respond. He murmured to himself, Song Yu is in such a hurry to escape. It must be that the time for the demon wolf transformation is up. He cannot maintain the 9 demon wolf form and will immediately suffer a backlash and fall into a weakened state. This is a rare chance. I must find him as soon as possible to kill him. However, before I go after him, I must take care of the flowing river valley's Mo army. Saying this, he hurriedly gripped the Sword of Burial of Heaven and flew to the edge of the flowing river valley. The saint-level defensive array covering the flowing river valley had been shattered by the explosion and was slowly recovering. Ji Tianqing used 30 breaths of time to cut open 5 openings in the defensive array. Each opening was more than 100 feet tall and 50 to 60 feet wide. It was like a large door. After opening 5 openings, he flew out of the flowing river valley and flew toward the night sky in the north. The great commotion in the flowing river valley naturally alarmed the human soldiers lying in ambush outside the valley. When the generals saw the chaos in the flowing river valley, they were overjoyed and cheered excitedly. Marshal Ji has succeeded. Wonderful! Marshal Ji has created a disaster in the Devil Army camp and successfully plunged the camp into chaos. This is the signal Marshal Ji gave us. What are we waiting for? Kill. Charge into the flowing river valley and exterminate the Devil Race. The soldiers cheered, and a loud bugle horn resounded in the night sky. Soon, 5 generals led 500,000 elite soldiers and charged into the flowing river valley from all directions. These human soldiers had been honing their strength for a long time and had long since accumulated a surging fighting spirit and killing intent. After passing through the opening in the array, the soldiers were like tigers in a flock of sheep, slaughtering the Devil Race in the flowing river valley. A great battle was about to erupt. The clashing of weapons, shouts, and screams interweaved into a deafening flood of sound waves that reverberated through the flowing river valley. The Devil Race camp was ablaze with dazzling radiance of magic power, erupting with gales and shockwaves. One after another, the corpses of Devil Race soldiers fell into the ruins. In a short 15 minutes, the flowing river valley was littered with corpses and rivers of blood. The Devil Race army was already in chaos, and now that they were surrounded by the human army, they were naturally routed. From the very beginning, the outcome of this great battle was decided. The bitter and bloody battle lasted for 4 whole hours before it ended. The more than 400,000 Devil Race soldiers in the flowing river valley were completely wiped out. Only a few managed to escape with their lives. Chapter 2093. The sky was getting brighter. In the Commander-in-Chief Palace of the Heavenly Lion Pass, the lights were still on in the meeting hall. Lu Baishuang sat on the throne of the Commander-in-Chief, resting his face with his hands. Ever since Ji Tianqing had led the army out, she had been waiting for news. The guards at the entrance of the main hall looked down from the mountain from time to time, looking forward to the army's triumphant return. Time passed quietly, and the sky was getting brighter. Finally, when a ray of light appeared in the sky, a messenger guard rushed into the main hall. Lord Saint Emperor, good news. Good news. As soon as the young messenger guard rushed into the main hall, he began to cheer in high spirits. His tone was filled with indescribable excitement. The silence in the main hall was broken. Lu Baishuang opened her eyes and looked at the messenger guard with shining eyes. She asked in a dignified tone, "Did our army win? What's the situation? Quickly report." The messenger guard respectfully knelt on the ground and reported in a sonorous voice, "Lord Saint Emperor, our army won a great victory and took back the flowing river valley in one fell swoop. Our army only lost about 60,000 men, but exterminated more than 400,000 demon soldiers. Only a dozen escaped. Generals Zhao and Chen led 200,000 elite soldiers to guard the flowing river valley and take care of the follow-up matters. The other 3 generals have already led their armies and will be returning soon." Hearing such a perfect report, Lu Baishuang could not believe it. She stood up excitedly. "Great! The flowing river valley is a great victory. This is definitely the final blow to the demon army. Ji Tianqing really did not disappoint this emperor. He actually created such an amazing achievement and won so beautifully. This emperor will personally come out and welcome the victorious return of the soldiers." As her voice fell, the guards in the main hall all knelt down and saluted, congratulating the Saint Emperor, and the heavens blessed the Baishuang Empire. When the sun rose, Lu Baishuang, dressed in luxurious clothes and wearing the Saint Emperor's phoenix crown, came to the Sky Lion Pass with a majestic guard of honor. She sat in an exquisite and luxurious phoenix carriage, looking to the north with a smile, waiting for the victorious return of the soldiers. On the ground in front of the phoenix carriage, there were a dozen or so white jade tables with rows of wine bottles on them. Every wine bottle was filled to the brim with jade nectar wine. This was the reward for the meritorious soldiers. About an hour later, a muffled rumbling sound came from the mountain range outside the pass. A majestic army was galloping from the north, bringing with it a cloud of dust. This army had 100,000 soldiers, and the general was Xie Wen. Following closely behind this large army was Zhong Lin's 90,000 soldiers. At the end of the line was another general, leading 80,000 elite soldiers. Even though these 3 armies looked tired and were covered in blood and dust, they were still able to hold their ground. However, the banners of the army were fluttering in the wind. The soldiers were hot-blooded and their morale was high. The army arrived at the Heavenly Lion Pass one after another. When they saw Lu Baishuang's honor guard, they all knelt down to pay their respects. Lu Baishuang stood up and began to commend the soldiers. After that, the 3 generals and dozens of commanders came to the front of the phoenix carriage and drank the celebratory wine that Lu Baishuang had given them. Lu Baishuang also announced in public that he would reward every meritorious official and every soldier who had participated in the battle. The jubilant and lively atmosphere lasted for a full hour. Finally, the 3 armies returned to the Heavenly Lion Pass to recuperate. Only Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were left. They came to Lu Baishuang and reported the details of last night's battle. After listening, Lu Baishuang frowned and asked doubtfully, "Since you have won a great victory and the army has returned, why didn't Vice Commander Ji come back with you?" Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were stunned, and their expressions were a little awkward. Reporting to Lord Saint Emperor, since the beginning of the battle, this general has not seen Vice Commander Ji. Vice Commander Ji sneaked into the flowing river valley alone to create chaos and caused an earth-shattering explosion that destroyed an area of 100 li. Because of this general and the others could smoothly kill their way into the flowing river valley. However, Vice Commander Ji is nowhere to be seen, perhaps he has other plans. Lu Baishuang's expression changed, and his eyes dimmed. A trace of worry flashed through his eyes. There was an explosion in the flowing river valley that destroyed an area of 100 li and killed more than 100,000 demon soldiers. So this is Vice Commander Ji's doing, but why is he nowhere to be seen? Did you carefully clean up the battlefield? Why didn't you search for Ji Tianqing's whereabouts? Xie Wen and Zhong Lin were speechless. After hesitating for a moment, they explained. This general has always believed that Vice Commander Ji is strong and will not be in danger. Lord Saint Emperor, please do not be impatient. You must also believe in Vice Commander Ji. With his strength, who can hurt him? He will definitely return safely. Perhaps he was delayed by something. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin tried to persuade him, but it was useless. Lu Baishuang's expression became more and more solemn. After thinking for a moment, he ordered in a deep voice, "You two, immediately return to the flowing river valley. No matter what, you must find Ji Tianqing." This. Xie Wen and Zhong Lin both showed a difficult expression and felt strange. Lord Saint Emperor is worried about Vice Commander Ji's safety. This is human nature, but isn't she being too nervous? With Vice Commander Ji's strength, he will definitely be safe. Why is Lord Saint Emperor in such a hurry? Can't you wait a little longer? Of course, these words could only be said in their hearts. They didn't dare say it out loud. They both felt that Lu Baishuang was overly concerned about Ji Tianqing. What? You don't want to go? Lu Baishuang saw that the two were silent and coldly shouted in a dignified tone, "Then this emperor will go find him personally." After saying that, she expressionlessly waved her sleeve and flew into the sky in a flash. "Lord Saint Emperor! Lord Saint Emperor, please calm down." Xie Wen and Zhong Lin hurriedly chased after her, but were quickly shaken off by Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang was anxious and worried about Ji Tianqing's safety, so she hurried with all her might. She flew gracefully, and every step she took brought her a distance of 5 kilometers. Her figure flashed continuously in the sky. After a short 2 hours, she arrived in the sky above the flowing river valley. In the messy flowing river valley, hundreds of thousands of human soldiers were busy cleaning up the battlefield and rebuilding the fortifications. The abyss in the middle was the most eye-catching. It was a ghastly sight. Lu Baishuang stared at the abyss for a while and suddenly frowned. Her eyes flashed with a deep sense of worry. It's the aura of a demon saint. Only a devil saint realm powerhouse would be able to cause such terrifying destruction. Ji Tianqing must have fought with a demon saint to leave behind such traces and aura. Even if he is talented and powerful, he is too young. This time, he is most likely dead. Thinking of this, Lu Baishuang's face became more and more ugly, and her heart became more and more anxious. Chapter 2094. Half an hour passed. Lu Baishuang stood in the sea of clouds above the flowing river valley and continued to search. She had already searched the Manchuan Valley more than 20 times. Even every grain of sand and dust under the ground was clearly explored. Unfortunately, she still could not find any trace of Ji Tianqing, not even a trace of his aura. Her heart gradually sank to the bottom of the valley, and her eyes were full of solemnity and pain. There is no trace of him in the flowing river valley, either he has already left the flowing river valley, or he has already died in the explosion and turned to ashes. Lu Baishuang whispered in a low voice, her tone full of pain. Although, she really wanted the answer to be the former. But reason told her that the answer was most likely the latter. In order to capture the flowing river valley and win, Ji Tianqing unfortunately fell into the trap of the demon Saint Master and fought a fierce battle with him. In the end, Ji Tianqing sacrificed himself, killing or seriously injuring the demon Saint Master, allowing the human army to win. Thinking of this, Lu Baishuang's heart ached. She stood silently for a moment before she suppressed the pessimistic thoughts in her mind and decided to search outside the flowing river valley. She turned and was about to leave when she was stunned by the scene in front of her. A black-haired young man in a white robe was standing 100 steps away, quietly looking at her. The white-robed young man was handsome and valiant, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and a mysterious and powerful aura exuded from his body. There were many cracks and holes in his white robe, and it was also stained with dark red blood. His black hair was scattered over his shoulders, and he looked a little disheveled. He had obviously just gone through a fierce battle and had not rested. When Lu Baishuang saw him, she could not help but tremble, and her eyes gradually widened, revealing a look of disbelief. Her pretty face was also full of joy, and all the worry and anxiety in her heart disappeared in an instant. Ji Tianqing. You're fine. Lu Baishuang's mood was a little excited, and she hurriedly stepped in front of Ji Tianqing, looking up and down at his injuries. Seeing that he was not seriously injured, and that his soul was very calm, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. When Ji Tianqing saw her reaction, he was touched. When this Lu Baishuang saw that I didn't return to the Heavenly Lion Pass with the army, he was worried and came to the flowing river valley to look for me. Looking at her reaction, I'm afraid she, sigh. Ji Tianqing sighed in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face. He nodded to Lu Baishuang and said with a smile, in the battle of the flowing river valley, our army won a great victory. Now, there are only about 300,000 demons left, and they are defending Mount Fei Xiong. Once the news reached Mount Fei Xiong, the demons would definitely be terrified and would not dare to cause trouble again. They would quickly flee back to Mount Beiming. This battle has confirmed the victory of our army, and the crisis of the White Frost Empire has been resolved. But even so, you shouldn't be so emotional that you're crying, right? Lu Baishuang was startled for a moment. She glanced at Ji Tianqing with a guilty conscience and quickly raised her sleeve to wipe away the mist in her eyes. I'm crying tears of joy. I'm happy for the people of the Empire. We're finally going to win. After the demon army is expelled, the people can return to their homes and live in peace. In the past 2 years, tens of millions of people of the Empire have been slaughtered by the demons. Now, this emperor has finally avenged them. Lu Baishuang was a little surprised. Ji Tianqing had clearly guessed her thoughts, but he pretended not to know. She could only find an excuse to cover up this matter, so as to avoid embarrassment. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, I'll leave the matter of the flowing river valley to the 2 generals. Let's return to the Heavenly Lion Pass. The army has returned victorious, so they should be rewarded and rewarded. In addition, I have to lead the army to Mount Fei Xiong as soon as possible and annihilate the rest of the demon army. Lu Baishuang nodded and followed him back to the Heavenly Lion Pass. The 2 of them flew side by side, but they were both silent. After a while, Lu Baishuang could not hold back the doubts in her heart and asked, Ji Tianqing, when you attacked the flowing river valley last night, did you encounter a demon saint expert? Ji Tianqing did not hide it and answered truthfully, the second demon saint, Cangyu, who led the demon army of millions, personally rushed to the flowing river valley. He hid from everyone and disguised himself as an ordinary general in the army camp. When I destroyed the camp and created chaos, he revealed his true face and attacked me. The second demon saint Cangyu. Lu Baishuang was shocked, and her eyes revealed a look of shock. Wasn't he at the border of the Scarlet Sun Empire, leading the 4 million demon army to attack the Scarlet Sun Empire? Why would he personally rush to the Heavenly Lion Pass to help, and hide the news? Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a cold smile, and he said in a playful tone, he rushed here in a hurry to kill me. After all, I'm the #1 enemy of the demon race. Lu Baishuang frowned doubtfully and glanced at him suspiciously. She obviously did not believe him. However, she did not comment on this matter. She continued to ask, since Cangyu came to assist in the battle to kill you, then how are you still alive? Ji Tianqing said calmly, he wants to kill me. Too naive. I exchanged tens of thousands of blows with him, and in the end, I suffered light injuries while he escaped with serious injuries. After I settled the matter of the flowing river valley, I went to chase after him personally. Unfortunately, I did not manage to catch up with him, so I was delayed and did not return with the army. Lu Baishuang finally could not help but roll her eyes at him and said in a reproachful tone, can't you speak the truth? The second demon Saint Cangyu is a rank 7, martial saint expert, an old demon who has been famous for thousands of years. Even if I met him, I would only be defeated miserably and would not even have the qualifications to fight him to a draw. You dare to say that you only suffered light injuries and he escaped with serious injuries? How can I believe this? This is simply inconceivable. Ji Tianqing spread out his hands indifferently and said indifferently, I am speaking the truth. If you don't believe me, forget it. Only a ghost would believe you. Lu Baishuang stared at him and said unhappily, anyway, you have never told me the truth. Unknowingly, her attitude towards Ji Tianqing had changed subtly and she became closer to him. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and said calmly, all right, then I will speak the truth. I exchanged a few hundred blows with Zhang Yu and he severely injured me. I was about to die. However, he accidentally detonated the domain and blew up the Flowing River Valley Army camp, killing hundreds of thousands of demon race soldiers. I took the opportunity to escape. When he saw that I was handsome and mighty, a rare martial arts genius, he took pity on me and decided to let me live. Before he finished speaking, Lu Baishuang stared at him angrily and shouted, Ji Tianqing. Can you be more serious? Are you talking about the heavenly book? Or are you trying to fool a 3-year-old child? Ji Tianqing smiled and said, you see, you don't believe me when I speak the truth and you don't believe me when I lie. What else can I do? Chapter 2095. Lu Baishuang could not believe that Ji Tianqing could severely injure Zhang Yu, a rank 7 martial sage. This was absolutely impossible. However, she did not believe that Zhang Yu would show mercy and spare Ji Tianqing's life. On the way back to Sky Lion Pass, she had been thinking and analyzing this matter. She was in a dilemma. Ji Tianqing pretended not to see her expression and silently thought about his next plan. After returning to Sky Lion Pass, Ji Tianqing rested in the Commander-in-Chief Palace for 2 days. 2 days later, he had recovered to his peak state and led the 300,000 elite troops out. This time, he wanted to destroy the 300,000-strong demon race troops at Flying Bear Mountain and achieve complete victory. However, when he reached Flying Bear Mountain, he realized that the demon race troops had already retreated. On the magnificent Mount Furious Bears, the only things left were the dilapidated walls and the burning fire that had never been extinguished. It was obvious that the demon race troops had already retreated. Before they escaped, they moved away all the military equipment and resources and even burned down the buildings in the camp. Even if they were defeated and escaped, they were not willing to let the human race take advantage of them. Ji Tianqing executed a secret technique and found out that the demon race troops had escaped 2 days ago. Now that 2 days had passed, the 300,000-strong demon race troops had already left Sky Lion Pass. Even if Ji Tianqing led the troops to chase after them, he might not be able to catch up. Even if he caught up, it would be half a month later and they would have left Luoshui Holy Kingdom's territory. Ji Tianqing pounced on empty air and was naturally a little depressed in his heart. However, this result was within his expectations and there was nothing to be angry about. He took a tour around the Flying Bear Mountain, then returned to the Sky Lion Pass with 300,000 elite soldiers. After returning to Sky Lion Pass, he let the soldiers rest in their barracks and entered the Commander-in-Chief Palace alone to look for Lu Baishuang. Lu Baishuang was in the study room. She sat in front of the table and was deep in thought. Ji Tianqing came in front of her and shouted softly, Lu Baishuang, I have something to tell you. Lu Baishuang's thoughts were interrupted and she hurriedly raised her head to look at him. You are back so quickly. It seems that the army of demons in the Flying Bear Mountain has already fled. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, you guessed right. This is also expected. Lu Baishuang nodded slightly, stared at him, and asked in a low voice, you came to find me now, is it to tell me that you are leaving? Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. That's right, you're really smart. Lu Baishuang was praised, but he wasn't happy at all. With a desolate expression, he said, how could I not guess? Long ago, you told me that you came to Heavenly Lion Pass to expel the demon army. You said that you were pressed for time and couldn't afford to waste any time. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, that's right, expelling the devil army and saving the north of the Luo River God country is my mission. Now that the mission has been completed, of course I have to leave. The Heavenly Lion Pass is already safe. Next, you just need to send the army to continue extending northward, and you will be able to reclaim the lost land. Even if you encounter some remnants of the devil race, you can easily deal with them. The people of the White Frost Empire will no longer have to live in fear and be forced to leave their homes. However, the other empires are still fighting with the devil army, and they are still in an abyss of suffering. I have to rush over to help as soon as possible to avoid more casualties. Lu Baishuang listened quietly, and when he finished, he slowly got up and bowed to him. Ji Tianqing, on behalf of the 3 billion people of the White Frost Empire, this emperor sincerely thanks you. No matter when, the White Frost Empire will always open its doors to you, and we will always welcome your arrival. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said, "Many thanks for Holy Emperor Baishuang's kindness. This Ji will take his leave now, and we will meet again someday." He cupped his fists to Lu Baishuang and turned to leave. Lu Baishuang was stunned for a moment, and couldn't help but shout, "Wait." Ji Tianqing turned to look at her, raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's wrong? Is there anything else?" "You." Lu Baishuang hesitated for a moment, then gathered her courage and asked, "If you leave now, I don't know when we will meet again. Don't you have anything you want to say to me?" Ji Tianqing thought seriously for a moment, and said solemnly, "No." Lu Baishuang's expression suddenly stiffened, and her eyes flashed with deep disappointment. However, she immediately recovered and said with a smile, "You are still not serious. Forget it, you can leave now. This emperor will report the matter of you helping the Heavenly Lion pass to Luotian Mountain and Lord Divine Master in detail, and ask Lord Divine Master to reward you according to your merits." "Many thanks." Ji Tianqing cupped his fists to her, then turned and left the study. This time, Lu Baishuang didn't stop him. She stood at the door of the study in a daze, watching Ji Tianqing's figure disappear at the end of the corridor. After a long time, she sighed faintly, turned around and returned to the study with a lonely expression, and continued to bury herself in official business. When he came to the Heavenly Lion Pass, Ji Tianqing came alone, and he didn't make a sound. When he left the Heavenly Lion Pass, he was also alone, and didn't attract anyone's attention. After he left the Heavenly Lion Pass, he stepped on the clouds and flew towards the east. The east of the White Frost Empire was close to the Qianlong Empire. The situation of the Qianlong Empire was worse than that of the White Frost Empire. More than half of its territory had already been invaded by the Devil Race. Since the Devil Race army invaded the Luotian Kingdom, more than 200 million people of the Qianlong Empire had already died in the flames of war. More than 1 billion people were forced to flee their homes, and became homeless refugees. Fortunately, the surrounding empires had provided the Qianlong Empire with corresponding help under the request of Luotian Mountain. If not for this, the Qianlong Empire would have been unable to hold on until now, and would have collapsed long ago. Ji Tianqing's next target was the Qianlong Empire. While he was flying, he calculated silently in his heart, now the Devil Race army has already killed their way to the center of the Qianlong Empire. The battle line is hundreds of thousands of miles long, and there are more than 20 checkpoints in between. However, there are only 2 checkpoints that are the most important, and they are the gateways to the thousands of cities in the south. Once those 2 checkpoints are broken, the Devil Race army will be able to lead the army south, and invade the entire Qianlong Empire. According to the previous intelligence, there are more than 2 million soldiers stationed in the Celestial Approach Pass and the Long Mountain Canyon respectively, and they have been desperately resisting the Devil Race's attack. Since the Celestial Approach Pass is closer to me, I will go there first to take a look. After making up his mind, Ji Tianqing slightly adjusted his flying direction, and rushed towards the Celestial Approach Pass. He flew continuously for 8 days and nights before he entered the Qianlong Empire. He only reached the vicinity of the Celestial Approach Pass on the evening of the 12th day. When he was still a few hundred miles away, he could already see the Celestial Approach Pass that had existed since ancient times, and he could feel the majestic aura. Under the setting sun, the sky was filled with gray clouds, but it was dyed with a faint layer of blood. Chapter 2096. Ji Tianqing was the god of death who had killed his way through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He was very sensitive to the smell of blood. Seeing the sky dyed red with blood and smelling the thick scent of blood, he realized that something was wrong. He sped up and flew towards the immortal Linxian Pass. Soon, he saw the sky in front of him lit up with colorful rays of spiritual energy. There were also low rumbling noises that spread out wave after wave. Hurricanes started to blow between heaven and earth. Those were the shockwaves from the battle. The trees on the mountains were all blown away. I didn't think that I would come at the right time. The demon army is attacking the immortal Linxian Pass. Ji Tianqing raised an eyebrow. His eyes flashed with cold murderous intent. After 20 breaths, he was 100 miles away from the immortal Linxian Pass. He stopped in the sky. He looked down from the sky and immediately saw the situation at the immortal Linxian Pass. The famous immortal Linxian Pass was a giant mountain that was 10,000 meters tall. It was majestic and boundless. On the south side of the giant mountain was a rolling mountain range. The mountain was covered with dark green primitive forests. On the north side of the giant mountain was a vast plain. There were no mountains, forests, or lakes. This giant mountain existed 10,000 years ago and gave birth to many myths and legends. Standing at the peak of the immortal Linxian Pass, one could reach out and touch the stars in the sky. Every full moon night, the bright moonlight would shine on the mountain peak. It made one feel pure and holy. But now, the immortal Linxian Pass had become a battlefield. It was a land of blood. On the mountain peak, there was an open space with a radius of 100 miles. There were many palaces and courtyards built there. There was also a giant military camp. On the mountain range behind the giant mountain, there were tens of thousands of buildings lined up in a row. They formed a military camp that was 300 miles long. There were more than 2 million human soldiers from different empires. They were stationed in this military camp. At this moment, on the north side of the giant mountain, there were hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers. They were like a black sea rushing towards the immortal Linxian Pass. There were about 600,000 demons. They were divided into 6 armies and arranged in different formations. They were attacking the immortal Linxian Pass fiercely. All kinds of powerful demonic path secret techniques, dazzling blood-red light, and soul fire poured down crazily on the battlefield. Countless mountain-like, ferocious-looking demonic beasts let out deafening roars and fiercely charged at the formation of human warriors. About 500,000 human soldiers formed a defensive formation outside the Celestial Arrival Pass, resisting with all their might. Every minute, every second, countless human warriors were killed, falling into puddles of blood without even having a complete body. Cries of agony rang out incessantly. Streaks of bright red blood splattered, causing a hazy blood mist to accumulate above the battlefield. Ji Tianqing's gaze left the battlefield and gradually moved upwards. Soon, he saw thousands of demon clan and human clan generals fighting each other in the sky above the battlefield. There were more than 20 blood gods illusions hiding in the clouds, devouring blood chi and souls to strengthen themselves. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing no longer hesitated. His figure flashed and rushed to the battlefield. Shua! He teleported 30 miles away and appeared behind a blood god's illusion. This blood god's illusion was very cunning. Its body turned into a wisp of dark red blood mist, flying in the sky without attracting too much attention. It was absorbing the blood chi from all directions and merging it into its body. Suddenly, a dazzling holy white light came from behind it. That holy white light condensed into a giant sword that was 30 feet long, erupting with an invincible and destructive power. The blood god's illusion felt the power of the holy white light and was instantly filled with fear. It quickly teleported away. However, it was only at the third level of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. How could it escape from Ji Tianqing's attack? Shua! With a flash, the white light giant sword slashed the blood god's illusion's body. It was cut in half on the spot, turning into two dark red blood mists. Before it could counterattack or escape, the holy white light spread out and immediately enveloped the two halves of its body. Under the purification of the holy white light, the dark red blood mist quickly dissipated like snow melting. In just 3 breaths, this blood god's illusion was completely purified by the holy white light and disappeared completely. Until the moment it disappeared, it still didn't understand what was going on, let alone who killed it. Ji Tianqing killed a blood god's illusion in one move and didn't stop to kill another blood god's illusion. He used the same trick again. While the blood god's illusion was unprepared, he waved his hand and released a dazzling white light. Shua! After a few breaths, this blood god's illusion was also purified by the white light and completely disappeared. Next, Ji Tianqing's figure kept flashing in the sky, killing one blood god's illusion after another. Most of the blood god's illusions were devouring the blood chi and souls on the battlefield. However, there were also a few blood god's illusions that quietly released plagues and poisons, causing all kinds of disasters. Their lethality was very shocking. The plagues and poisons released could poison thousands of soldiers in an instant. Fortunately, Ji Tianqing got rid of these blood god's illusions in time to prevent the disaster from spreading further. 15 minutes later, he killed 21 blood god's illusions. The 5 surviving blood god's illusions all discovered his existence and saw his terrifying means. The 5 blood god's illusions didn't dare to stay any longer. They hurriedly fled to the north, away from the battlefield. Ji Tianqing was just about to chase after them when he was stopped by 9 demon race powerhouses. These 9 demon race powerhouses were all in the 2nd or 3rd level of the Tribulation Transcendence realm and led 20,000 to 30,000 demon race warriors. They were powerful, and their auras were ferocious. Without saying a word, they used their secret techniques to surround and attack Ji Tianqing. Shua shua. Suddenly, the sky was covered with the brilliance of spells. All kinds of ferocious and terrifying phantoms of demon race secret techniques covered the sky within a 5-kilometer radius. Such a huge commotion also alarmed the human generals in the sky. More than 20 human generals discovered Ji Tianqing's presence. Although he was wearing a white robe, he didn't wear armor like the generals. However, the 20 or so human generals all looked worried and rushed over to save him. Unfortunately, everyone was rather far away and was simply unable to save Ji Tianqing in time. Ji Tianqing was about to be drowned by the brilliance of spells and blasted into pieces on the spot. However, a scene that left everyone dumbfounded appeared. Even though he was in a dangerous situation, he calmly took out a black sword and waved it calmly, sending out dozens of sword lights. Star shatter. 49 silver sword lights bloomed like lotuses, illuminating the sky within a 100-kilometer radius. No matter how powerful the demon race secret techniques were, how ferocious the blood lights and demon soul phantoms were, they all collapsed and dissipated after meeting the starry sword lights. The dazzling starry sword lights actually defeated all the attacks. Not only that. Chapter 2097. The sword light was like lightning, and silver lotuses bloomed. 9 Tribulation Realm demon generals were killed in one move, dying without a complete corpse. As for Ji Tianqing, he was unscathed. His white robe and hair were still spotless. More than 20 human generals rushed over, but they were stunned by the scene in front of them. Their eyes widened in horror, revealing expressions of disbelief. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. That handsome and valiant white-robed youth was clearly so young, but he was able to kill 9 demon generals in one move. What kind of amazing strength was this? Was he a top martial lord? Or was he an extraordinary martial saint expert? No one knew the answer. The generals also did not recognize this unfamiliar white-robed youth. Just as everyone was stunned, the white-robed youth attacked again. His feet moved in a mysterious way, and his body flashed in the sky with a series of afterimages. Swish! 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 In the blink of an eye, 7 silver-white sparks bloomed in the sky within a 50-kilometer radius. They were as gorgeous as 7 stars in a row. At the same time, the bodies of the 7 demon generals exploded, turning into a rain of dark purple flesh and blood, burning into ashes in the sparks. The 7 demon generals were scattered in different places, several kilometers away from each other. However, Ji Tianqing was too fast, and his swordsmanship was too amazing. He killed all of them in the blink of an eye. In the eyes of many human generals, the 7 demon generals were killed at the same time. Everyone was so shocked that their hearts stopped beating. They looked at Ji Tianqing in amazement, shocked. Oh my God! This general, no, who is this senior? We have never seen him before. He should not be a general of our army. Maybe he is a strong reinforcement that Marshal Xie invited. What a terrifying movement technique, what an amazing swordsmanship. Today is really an eye-opener. I am sure that this senior is definitely a martial saint expert. That decisive and unparalleled swordsmanship is not inferior to Marshal Xie's. For a moment, hundreds of human generals in the sky stared at Ji Tianqing's figure, exclaiming and discussing. However, Ji Tianqing turned a deaf ear to them. His figure continued to flicker in the sky, killing demon generals one after another. He executed the heavenly dragon's 7 steps and held the sword of burial of heaven in his hand. He executed an extraordinarily profound sword technique, and there was actually no one who was a match for him. No one could stop it, and even gods and ghosts would flee. In the eyes of many human soldiers, there were only countless afterimages of Ji Tianqing and the silver sword light that filled the sky. Swish! Swish! In the short span of 100 breaths, Ji Tianqing had actually killed over 150 devil generals in succession. The battlefield was immediately thrown into chaos. The remaining 1,000 devil race generals were all frightened into retreating, not daring to get close to Ji Tianqing. The morale of the human generals was greatly boosted, and they took the opportunity to attack the demon generals, forcing them to retreat again and again. When Ji Tianqing saw that the battle in the sky was stabilizing, he looked down at the battlefield below. Seeing the demon race army surging forward with murderous intent, and the human race army constantly retreating, he hurriedly stepped in to help. Heavenly Dragon Palm. With a wave of his left palm, an overwhelming golden light shot out, forming a 1,000-feet-long golden dragon. Roar! The heavenly dragon let out a dragon roar that shook the clouds, and with the power to destroy heaven and earth, it swooped down toward the battlefield. Boom! The next moment, an earth-shattering explosion erupted, shaking a radius of hundreds of miles. A 30-mile gap was blasted open in the demon race army's formation on the spot. On the grassland that was sprinkled with corpses and blood, a huge pit was blasted open, and dust flew up into the sky. At least 20,000 devil race soldiers were killed on the spot by the heavenly dragon palm, turning into dust and scattering on the battlefield. Meteor fire shower. Ji Tianqing shouted with a grave expression, and his aura erupted to the extreme as he brazenly used his ultimate killing move. He formed a sword seal with his left hand and waved the sword of burial of heaven with his right hand, and a soaring golden flame ignited behind him. Immediately, nearly 100 silver light spots lit up in the dusky sky and blasted down like meteors. Following the meteor from outer space was an overwhelming surge of heavenly fire. Inside and outside the immortal Overlook Pass, it was instantly lit up by the stars and flames, and the heaven and earth were filled with radiance. The hundreds of thousands of humans and demons were so shocked that their expressions changed drastically, and they could not open their eyes because of the blinding light. Countless soldiers looked up at the sky instinctively. What they saw was a human youth in a white robe, with long hair and a mysterious black sword in his hand. He stood proudly in the sky, as majestic and sacred as a god, and so powerful that it made people respect him. The meteors and heavenly fire that fell from the sky were like the servants of a god, following his summons. Rumble. In the next moment, hundreds of meteors that were as large as mountains crashed into the demon race's camp. Next, the overwhelming heavenly fire covered a radius of nearly 100 miles, drowning more than 200,000 devil race soldiers. The grassland outside the immortal Overlook Pass was instantly turned into a sea of fire, and smoke and dust covered the sky. The deafening sound was as if the heaven and earth were falling apart, and the sun and moon were collapsing, causing everyone to feel dizzy. The ground within a radius of a few hundred miles was trembling violently as spiderweb-like cracks appeared all over the ground. Even the 10,000-meter-tall, majestic immortal Overlook Pass was shaking violently from the impact. Such a destructive scene made the hundreds of thousands of soldiers tremble in fear. While everyone was running and avoiding the shockwaves, the only thing that appeared in their minds was the majestic figure in the white robe. Many of them had the same thought. Who was that young man in the white robe? Was he a human or a god? How could he control the meteors and create such a horrifying natural disaster? After a long while, the smoke and flames that covered the sky gradually dissipated. The battlefield became clear, and the hundreds of thousands of soldiers could finally see the situation clearly. They saw that on the vast grassland, there were hundreds of huge craters, and they were scattered on the ground within a radius of 200 miles. This huge crater had been burned black by the heavenly fire, and it had completely turned into a charred ruin. At the bottom of the crater, there were remnants of dark red lava, and wisps of flames were floating around. At least 200,000 soldiers of the demon race army had been burned to ashes and disappeared. The ground around the crater was covered with a thick layer of dust, and it was also charred black. The formation of the demon race army was broken, and they were split into several groups, scattered and defeated. More importantly, after such a destructive attack, countless soldiers of the demon race were traumatized, and their morale was at an all-time low. When the soldiers of the human race saw this, they were all shocked, and they found it unbelievable. At the same time, the soldiers' morale was greatly boosted, and they charged even more bravely. Ji Tianqing appeared again. He flew above the demon race army, and once again waved his hand and used his ultimate technique. Lightning attraction technique. He formed a spell with both hands, and gathered the power of lightning within a 10,000-mile radius. He condensed it into hundreds of lightning bolts and struck the demon race army. Kaboom! Boom boom boom! Deafening thunders exploded one after another, shaking the heavens. Chapter 2098. Every bolt of lightning had the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. Over 100 bolts of lightning struck down at the same time. Even an ordinary martial sage would be turned into charcoal. Most of the demon soldiers on the battlefield were only in the heavenly origin realm and the spirit tempering realm. Under the heavenly lightning, they were like ants that could only be turned into ashes. The thunderous roar lasted for dozens of breaths before it dissipated. The land that was already in ruins became even more chaotic after being struck by over 100 bolts of lightning. Within a radius of 300 miles, there were deep pits and scorched earth. Countless ashes and fragments of weapons and armors were scattered on the ground. Another 100,000 demon soldiers were killed on the spot by the heavenly lightning and disappeared without a trace. The 300,000 survivors of the demon clan were completely terrified. They lost their fighting spirit and will to fight. With Ji Tianqing, the god of death, who could destroy the heavens and the earth, no one dared to muster up any courage. They only wanted to escape from the immortal face pass as soon as possible. There was a commotion in the demon army. Countless people fled outside the immortal face pass in panic. Hundreds of thousands of human soldiers were shocked to see such a drastic change and the scorched earth outside the immortal face pass. Everyone's eyes were focused on Ji Tianqing. They were full of admiration and respect. All sorts of cheers, shouts, and discussions erupted like a mountain torrent, filling the sky. Our race is mighty. Our race will win. This is unbelievable. That senior can summon the heavenly lightning and kill 100,000 demon soldiers. This is the power of a god. Even our commander Xie can't control the heavenly lightning, right? Who is that senior? Our commander Xie is so powerful. He can invite such a powerful senior to help us. Victory will be ours. Such an unfathomable senior is so young and handsome. This is unbelievable. Senior alone can kill 1,000,000 lions and kill 1,000,000 demon soldiers. Senior's demeanor is unparalleled. He is like a god of war. If I can have 1/10,000th of him, it will be enough to make a name for myself in the army. Countless soldiers were full of admiration and respect for Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing did not say a word, continuing to pursue the fleeing demon army with his sword. The 9 swords of the burial of heaven, the heavenly dragon palm technique, and various other secret techniques were displayed one by him. Incomparably sharp sword lights, dazzling magical power splendor, and earth-shattering lightning and starry divine fire constantly poured into the demon army. He pursued them for hundreds of miles and killed tens of thousands of devil soldiers. The human generals also hurriedly gave orders. They led hundreds of thousands of soldiers out of the celestial overlook pass and chased after the demon soldiers. 4 hours later, the battle finally ended. The fleeing devil race army was also completely wiped out. Only a few thousand people managed to escape with their lives. In this battle, the human race had won a complete victory. It was an incomparably beautiful victory. When hundreds of thousands of human warriors returned in triumph, cheers and shouts were heard from both inside and outside the celestial overlook pass. Everyone was jubilant and proud of this perfect victory. However, all the soldiers knew that the greatest contributor to this victory was the mysterious white-robed youth. He alone had killed 300,000 devil soldiers. It could be said that his battle achievements were splendid and shocking to the extreme. After the battle ended, the soldiers were still unwilling to retreat and rest. They were still discussing this matter. The generals who led the army did not have time to reward the soldiers. They hurriedly flew into the sky and greeted the white-robed youth. They saw the white-robed youth standing in the sky with a proud expression. He seemed to be observing and thinking about something. The few generals went up to greet him respectfully and humbly bowed to him. "Senior, I, Wei Yu, pay my respects to you. I, Yi Xianqing, represent the 100,000 soldiers under my command to thank you for your help. I, Ban Yunshan, represent the 100,000 soldiers in the vanguard camp to thank you for your help. I, General." The 5 generals had different facial features. There was a burly middle-aged man, a thin white-haired elder, and a handsome young man. However, they were all in the 3rd or 4th level of the tribulation realm and led 100,000 soldiers. In the celestial approach pass, they only obeyed the orders of Xie Wuxian. They only respected Xie Wuxian. However, after the battle just now, the 5 generals worshipped Ji Tianqing and were in awe of him. Ji Tianqing looked at the 5 generals calmly and said, "Generals, you don't have to be so courteous. It is my responsibility and mission to kill the devil and protect the territory of the holy nation." The 5 generals were still discussing Ji Tianqing's identity and background. They even argued about it. Some people thought that Ji Tianqing was a strong helper invited by Xie Wuxian. He was most likely a friend of Xie Wuxian. Some people thought that he was an expert in the martial arts world. He was most likely an expert who lived in seclusion. He was just passing by and decided to help. Some people thought that he must be a martial sage expert sent by the holy nation. He was most likely a trusted subordinate of the divine master. Hearing his words, the 5 generals were certain of his identity. He must be an expert sent by the divine master. His goal was to support the celestial approach pass and kill the devil. Wei Yu cupped his hands at Ji Tianqing and asked respectfully, "Senior, you have shown your prowess today and killed more than 300,000 devils. You have made a great contribution. I think our general, Xia Wusheng, would like to thank you in person. It's just that we still don't know Senior's name, so we'd like to ask." Ji Tianqing saw their curious faces and was ready to tell them the truth. However, he remembered what happened at the Heavenly Lion Pass and decided to keep it a secret. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, he said expressionlessly, "You don't have to ask. Just bring me to see your general." The 5 generals understood and guessed that he had a secret mission and could not reveal it easily. Therefore, the 5 of them cupped their hands at the same time and said, "If that is the case, we have been rude. Please follow us." Then, the 5 generals surrounded Ji Tianqing and flew into the Celestial Approach Pass. In the Celestial Approach Pass, hundreds of thousands of soldiers were still discussing the previous battle. They were talking excitedly. Seeing Ji Tianqing and the 5 generals flying across the sky, countless people had looks of reverence on their faces as they bowed to greet them. Soon, the 5 generals brought Ji Tianqing to the peak of the Celestial Approach Pass and landed in front of the most glorious and solemn general's palace. The door of the conference hall was wide open. On both sides of the stairs outside the door, there were 2 rows of silver-armored guards. Ji Tianqing was the first to cross the stairs and enter the meeting hall. In the spacious and bright conference hall, there were several golden-armored generals reporting to the white-haired elder at the head of the table. The white-haired elder was thin and tall. He wore a black and white Taoist robe and a white jade crown on his head. He looked extremely sage-like. Without a doubt, he was the general of the Celestial Approach Pass, Xia Wusheng. When he raised his head to look at the entrance of the conference hall and saw Ji Tianqing's face clearly, his body suddenly shook as if he was petrified. His eyes widened and he was stunned for a long time before he came back to his senses. He stood up excitedly and appeared in front of Ji Tianqing in a flash. He stared at Ji Tianqing in disbelief and tears welled up in his eyes. "Moss. Master? Is it, really you?" Xia Wusheng's lips trembled as he asked in a low and stuttering voice. The generals and guards were dumbfounded and they saw Xia Wusheng's excited reaction and heard what he said. Everyone in the hall revealed shocked and astonished expressions as they looked at Ji Tianqing with a face full of doubt. Chapter 2099. The spacious and bright meeting hall fell into silence. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Not only were the 10 generals and the dozen guards stunned, even Ji Tianqing was a little stunned. He frowned and looked at Marshal Saint Xia, who was 5 steps away from him. He stared at his face, entranced. It was a face that was slightly old, but not withered. Perhaps it was due to his cultivation, or perhaps it was because he was a martial saint, but his face was still rosy and his complexion was excellent. On his slightly thin face, there was a pair of narrow but deep eyes, which contained the vicissitudes of life and extraordinary wisdom. Under the high bridge of his nose was a pair of thin lips. He had a wisp of white beard that hung down to his chest. When Ji Tianqing first saw this old face, he felt that it was somewhat familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. When he carefully looked at it twice, a similar face immediately appeared in his mind. Of course, that face of about 20 years old was Marshal Saint Xia's appearance when he was young. Following that, a memory from 1,000 years ago appeared in Ji Tianqing's mind. That year, Ji Tianqing sat at Tianzhu Mountain and challenged all the martial saints in the world. He won every battle and became famous. Countless ambitious youths rushed to Tianzhu Mountain to learn martial arts. The disciples of the Pillar of Heaven's mountains were all hardworking and ambitious young geniuses. Only a skinny and dark-skinned kid was an anomaly among the disciples. This person was like a skinny monkey, and his eyes were abnormally bright. He always had a sloppy appearance, not caring about his appearance. He often had a messy hairstyle and carried a set of jade chess to play chess with his fellow disciples. However, his chess skills were incomparably exquisite, and none of the disciples of Tianzhu Mountain were his match. He did not focus on practicing martial arts and swordsmanship, but did not do his job all day. Naturally, Kenshin was displeased, and Huanglong Daoist reminded and taught him many times. Unfortunately, he was still stubborn, and in the end, he angered Huanglong Daoist, who wanted to expel him from the sect. It was late at night in the pouring rain, and he knelt outside Kenshin's study for an entire night. In the end, Kenshin sympathized with his stubbornness, and summoned him to an audience to listen to his story. It turned out that his obsession with chess was related to the massacre of his family. He carried a blood feud and came to Tianzhu Mountain to learn martial arts, wanting to become an expert and avenge his family. Thus, the god of swords studied his ancient chess book and personally taught him. From then on, he walked on the right path, and his strength increased by leaps and bounds. 300 years later, he successfully broke through the martial sage realm and became the renowned chess saint. He was the disciple of Tianzhu Mountain, and the current chess saint Xie Wudao. The memories gradually disappeared, and the young face in Ji Tianqing's mind gradually overlapped with the martial saint Xie in front of him. He finally understood Xie. I did not expect Xie Wudao. Back then, this kid was as dark and skinny as a monkey. He was the ugliest among his fellow disciples. 1,000 years later, he has become so benevolent and sage-like. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself, and was about to shout, Xie Wudao. However, just as he spoke, he stopped abruptly. Ji Tianqing glanced at the generals and guards around him, and quickly changed his words. He said coldly, Martial Sage Xie, you have the wrong person. Martial Sage Xie stared at him, still immersed in his excitement and joy, and did not react. No. Master, even though I have not seen your face for 1,000 years, I will always remember it in my heart and imprint it in my spiritual soul. I will never forget it. Even though you have been through 1,000 years, your appearance, gaze, figure, and aura have not changed. Master, your disciple, Xie Wudao, kowtows. Xie Wudao said sincerely, and was about to kneel down and bow. He was very sure that the white-robed youth in front of him was his master, Kenshin. Regardless of appearance, gaze, or soul aura, there was no difference. However, Ji Tianqing stretched out his hands and held his arms like iron hoops, preventing him from kneeling. Martial Sage Xie, please calm down. I am Ji Tianqing, and I am here on the orders of the Divine Master. I have something important to discuss with you. Ji Tianqing looked at him coldly, and his tone was very serious. It was as if he really did not know him. Xie Wudao looked at him in astonishment. Then, he slowly straightened his body and suppressed the excitement in his heart. After 10 breaths, Xie Wudao finally calmed down, and returned to his calm and indifferent attitude. He glanced at the generals and guards around him, and said in a dignified tone, all of you can leave now. Benshui has something important to discuss with Master Ji. No one is allowed to disturb us. Only then did the 10 generals and the many guards come back to their senses. They looked at Ji Tianqing and Xie Wudao with strange expressions, and quickly bowed and left. However, they had all witnessed the situation. After leaving the meeting hall, they began to discuss secretly. Oh my God! What happened to Martial Xie? Why did he suddenly lose his composure? Martial Xie has always been calm and wise. Why did he react so violently? Did you hear that? Martial Xie called that person master, and even wanted to bow to him. Martial Xie's master. I heard that Martial Xie came from Tianzhu Mountain, and is Kenshin's direct disciple. Doesn't that mean, that young master surnamed Ji is the legendary sword god? That's ridiculous. Kenshin fell 1,000 years ago. How could he appear again? But Martial Xie is such a wise man. How could he mistake his master for someone else? And Martial Xie also said that Master Ji's appearance, eyes, and soul aura are exactly the same. That's too unbelievable. Could it be that reincarnated people really exist in this world? Is Master Ji really Kenshin's reincarnation? Maybe Kenshin didn't fall at all. After all, no one saw him die with their own eyes. It's just a rumor. If it's really Kenshin's reincarnation, then it's a story that will shock the world. No wonder Master Ji is as powerful as a deity. He killed more than 300,000 demons alone. Other than Kenshin, who else could have such a demeanor? The 10 generals and dozens of guards gathered in 2s and 3s to discuss this matter. Everyone guessed that Ji Tianqing was Kenshin, or Kenshin's reincarnation. They were both shocked and excited. They hurried back to the barracks and told the others about this matter. After all, this was a story that had never happened before. Only Ji Tianqing and Xia Wudao were left in the meeting hall. They immediately fell silent. Xia Wudao calmed down. He also felt that this matter was strange. His attitude towards Ji Tianqing was also much calmer. Master Ji, Benshui was rude just now. I've embarrassed myself in front of you. Benshui has heard of Master Ji's reputation and deeds a long time ago. You are the #1 God's disciple of Luoshui Kingdom, the #1 genius of the human race. Also, Benshui has heard about how you helped the Heavenly Lion pass and defeated the demons. Chapter 2100. Ji Tianqing sat upright on a pear-wood chair, listening with a calm expression. After Xia Wudao finished speaking, he asked in a low voice, Xia Wudao, do you really see Kenshin as your master and respect him your whole life? Xia Wudao was stunned for a moment. His face was full of doubt as he looked at him. Young Master Ji, what do you mean? A master for a day is a father for life. My master treated me like a nephew. Not only did he take me in, but he also taught me martial arts and chess. If not for my master's guidance, I would not have been able to take revenge and achieve what I have today. I carry the mark of the Pillar of Heaven's mountains and am a disciple of Kenshin. This will not change in my life. Xia Wudao frowned. His tone was a little angry, but at the same time, it was resolute and unquestionable. Ji Tianqing was not angry. His expression did not change. He looked at Xia Wudao calmly and asked, since you see your master as your father, why did you leave the Pillar of Heaven's mountains and set up your own sect? This. Xia Wudao was stunned. He pursed his lips with a complicated expression. He was hesitating about how to explain when he suddenly realized something. He looked at Ji Tianqing with dignity and asked, young Master Ji, as far as Benshui knows, you are the eldest disciple of Luotian Mountain and the most valued disciple of the God Master. You have also contributed a lot to the God Nation. Benshui respects you and is grateful that you came to the Immortal Pass to help. However, the matter of the Pillar of Heaven's mountains and Benshui's master seems to have nothing to do with you. Why do you ask? Ji Tianqing smiled and asked, how can it have nothing to do with me? Didn't you hear the news that I am a disciple of Kenshin? 2 years ago, I returned to the Pillar of Heaven's mountains and managed the affairs of the Pillar of Heaven's mountains with the Huanglong Taoist. What? Xia Wudao's face was filled with shock. He stood up and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. You are Master's disciple? No. This is impossible. Even if you are Master's successor, you shouldn't have the same appearance and temperament as Master. Furthermore, your eyes and soul aura are exactly the same as Master's. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and calmly explained, that's right, it's because I inherited Kenshin's martial arts legacy. Didn't the Huanglong Taoist mention this to you? This. Xia Wudao fell silent again. After a moment of hesitation, he said bitterly, Senior Huanglong and I have not contacted each other for many years. Ji Tianqing looked at him with burning eyes. Why don't you contact her? Xia Wudao shook his head and revealed a bitter smile. Junior brother Ji, don't ask me about this. I have my own difficulties. However, I dare to swear to the heavens that I absolutely did not betray Master, nor did I do anything to let down the pillar of heaven's mountains. Whether it is Master or Senior Brother Huang Long, I will always be loyal to them. If there is any danger to the pillar of heaven's mountains, as long as Senior Brother Huang Long says the word, I will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. Ji Tianqing calmly looked at him for a long time before nodding slightly. All right, I will not ask any more questions. I am willing to believe your words. However, you should still call me young Master Ji. N. Xia Wudao was startled and asked in confusion, we are all Master's disciples, and you are the youngest successor. You should be our junior brother. Why? There is no reason, just call me young Master Ji. Ji Tianqing said firmly. Xia Wudao looked at him with a complicated expression. He felt bitter in his heart and thought, could it be that junior brother Ji knows about what happened back then and blames me? No, senior brother Huang Long is definitely not that kind of person. He would not take the initiative to say that. Ji Tianqing saw his strange expression and warned, from today onwards, don't mention my true identity to anyone, and don't involve the pillar of heaven's mountains and Kenshin. Just say that I am the eldest disciple of the Luotian mountain and that I am here to support the army under the orders of the Divine Master to fight against the devil race. Xia Wudao did not hesitate and quickly nodded. All right, I will definitely keep this matter a secret for you. Ji Tianqing was still a little worried and said, just now, you lost your composure in front of everyone. Those generals and guards will definitely misunderstand and have some complicated conjectures. So, you have to think of a way to make them keep it a secret and not spread the news. Xia Wudao immediately agreed and said solemnly, Master Ji. Young Master Ji, please don't worry. This old man will definitely do as you say. Ji Tianqing then changed the topic and said seriously, all right, we have finished talking about private matters. Let's talk about business. You are now the commander-in-chief of the Celestial Face Pass, and you are in charge of 3 million soldiers. I am here to help you fight, and I only want to defeat the Devil Race army as soon as possible. What do you plan to do with me? When it came to military achievements and merits, Xia Wudao became spirited and said with a burning gaze, young Master Ji, just now you displayed your invincible might outside the pass. You single-handedly defeated the Devil Race army and killed more than 300,000 Devil Race soldiers. This old man has already heard the report from the generals. Such a world-shaking battle record was simply world-shaking. This old man still felt that it was inconceivable, but now I know that you are actually Master's successor. No wonder you have such a peerless demeanor. Also, the Heavenly Lion Pass's army was able to defeat the Devil Race army within a month because of your help. Your valiant military achievements and legendary deeds have already spread throughout the northern battlefield. Not only are the people of the White Frost Empire grateful and worshipping you, even the people of the Changlong Empire and the Scarlet Sun Empire are full of admiration for you. They only hope that you can save them as soon as possible. Ji Tianqing quietly listened. After Xia Wudao finished speaking, he asked, So? Xia Wudao's face was full of smiles. He said in a playful tone, this old man has decided to invite you to be the deputy commander of the army and assist this old man in battle. You and this old man are from the same sect, and your military achievements have spread throughout the world. You should be appointed as the deputy commander, and it won't be a waste of your talent. In the future, the strategy and plan to deal with the Devil Race army will be based on your opinion. This old man will fully support you. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, that's good too. Then arrange a place for me to stay and announce the news of my appointment. In addition, arrange the map of the battlefield inside and outside the Celestial Overlook Pass, as well as the information about the Devil Race's military strength and defense, and give it to me. Xia Wudao repeatedly nodded and said, rest assured, young Master Ji. This old man will immediately send someone to do it. Ji Tianqing didn't say anything else. He stood up and walked to the door of the conference hall. Then, Xia Wudao's personal guard came in and led Ji Tianqing into the commander's palace to arrange a place for him to stay. This middle-aged guard also had the strength of the second stage of Tribulation Realm. He was actually Xia Wudao's disciple. The place was spacious and bright, and the decorations were elegant and clean. There was also a secret room and a reception hall, which was exactly what Ji Tianqing wanted. After resting in the place, Ji Tianqing entered the secret room alone and prepared to cultivate. At this moment, the voice of the burial of heaven sounded in his mind. Among your many disciples, only a few were the most outstanding and the most loyal. Chapter 2101. Ji Tianqing had already guessed that burial of heaven would ask such a question. He raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "Do you think that I don't trust Xia Wudao and am testing him on purpose?" "It's obvious that you have already tested him," Burial of Heaven replied calmly. Ji Tianqing looked ahead with a complicated expression. "When I was at Tianzhu Mountain, I mentioned Xiao Bai and Xia Wudao to Huang Long. Huang Long avoided talking about Xia Wudao and only talked about Little White for a while. From then on, I guessed that there might be some misunderstanding between Huang Long and Xia Wudao." Burial of Heaven said faintly, "So you questioned Xia Wudao in person just now?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "Yes, I'd like to know what happened between them." Unfortunately, Xia Wudao did not say anything, so I did not ask. However, Xia Wudao might have his own difficulties. As long as he did not change his mind about me in Tianzhu Mountain, it's fine. Burial of Heaven continued, "Since you've already confirmed that Xia Wudao did not betray us, why didn't he tell you the truth? Your attitude towards him and towards Huang Long are clearly two different things." Ji Tianqing nodded. "Of course there is a difference. When news of my death spreads, Shenwu continent will definitely be in a perilous situation. I have offended so many powers and powerhouses in the past, and they will definitely take revenge on Tianzhu Mountain. For thousands of years, Tianzhu Mountain has always been in danger and predicament. No matter how loyal a disciple is, it is impossible for them to protect their former glory and faith and accompany Tianzhu Mountain to its destruction. Many disciples have gone their separate ways and established their own factions. This is human nature, and I do not blame them. Now that I see Xia Wudao again, I will not blame him either. However, Huang Long has always been at Tianzhu Mountain and has protected it for thousands of years. He is my most loyal disciple, and I naturally trust him the most." After pausing for a moment, Ji Tianqing continued, "Currently, only Yao Yao, Cuckoo, and Huang Long know my true identity, and they will keep their mouths shut. At present, my strength is still not strong enough, so it's not good for me to reveal my identity. Otherwise, there will be endless troubles." Burial of Heaven agreed and nodded, "That's right. There are countless people who want to kill you. Aside from the demon race, there are also many martial Dao forces and martial saint experts." Ji Tianqing said calmly, "Xia Wudao lost his composure in front of everyone in the hall just now, which has already aroused everyone's suspicion and speculation. I could only hide my identity and let Xia Wudao block the news. If I reveal my identity to him, no matter how he disguises himself, he will be exposed in front of everyone. Once the news of Kenshin's rebirth spreads throughout the continent, I'm afraid we'll have no choice but to continue living in exile. I'm not sure how many people want to kill me, and how many will help me." Burial of Heaven was silent for a moment, then said in a serious tone, "That's good. Before you recover your divine realm, it's best to keep it a secret. Now that Xia Wudao treats you as his junior brother, he will take good care of you. You'll have one more helper." Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "It doesn't matter whether I help or not. Now, I'm going to help him guard the Celestial Overlook Pass and expel the demon race army." Burial of Heaven thought for a moment and asked, "You've just arrived at the Celestial Overlook Pass and you're not preparing to fight. Instead, you're cultivating in the secret room. Could it be that your strength has reached a critical point and you're about to break through to the martial saint realm?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "That's right. I have a feeling that I'll be able to break through within a month. Only when I return to the martial saint realm can I display the true sword way lost skill and be qualified to roam the continent. Burial of Heaven reminded him, that's right. Only when you return to the martial saint realm can you be truly reborn. At that time, you'll be able to do more things, such as the illusory spirit star nucleus under the broken soul cliff. Also, the wreckage of the divine battleship under the ghost desert in the North Underworld mountain. Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "You're only thinking about the illusory spirit star nucleus and the wreckage of the divine battleship. You want me to get them as soon as possible and help you restore to a divine artifact. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. When I reach the martial saint realm, I'll definitely make a trip there." Burial of Heaven did not say anything more and said, "Then, go into seclusion and cultivate. We'll talk about this later." After that, Burial of Heaven fell into a deep sleep. Ji Tianqing also began to cultivate. Xia Wudao was very efficient. That night, he personally delivered the information that Ji Tianqing wanted. Ji Tianqing spent half the night reading all the information. He also had a sufficient understanding of the situation inside and outside the Celestial Overlook Pass and the military strength of the demon race army. Then, he could rest assured and cultivate. Unknowingly, 5 days had passed. In these 5 days, Ji Tianqing had been cultivating in seclusion in the secret room to break through the bottleneck of the martial saint realm. Xia Wudao did not disturb him, nor did he take the initiative to attack the demon race. He still trained the army as usual and spied on the demon race's intelligence. In addition, he also gathered a few generals and more than 10 guards who were present that day. He instructed everyone to keep it a secret and not to leak any information. However, after what happened that day, the generals and guards leaked the news. The news had already spread in the Celestial Overlook Pass and at least a few 100,000 people knew about it. Moreover, the news had already spread out of the Celestial Overlook Pass and within the Kingdom of Gods. When Xia Wudao knew that the news had been leaked, he was furious and scolded the generals and guards. However, what was done could not be undone and he could not do anything. Even if he killed the generals and guards, it would not help. He could only issue a strict order to forbid the soldiers in the Celestial Overlook Pass from discussing and spreading the news. Once they were discovered or reported, they would be severely punished. On the morning of the 6th day, Ji Tianqing finally came out of seclusion. He had just returned to his room when Xia Wudao heard the news and rushed over. Xia Wudao bowed to him and said in a serious tone, "Young Master Ji, regarding your appointment as the deputy commander, this old man has already announced the news. Moreover, this old man has also instructed more than 20 generals under my command to strictly carry out your orders. Previously, you displayed your invincible prowess outside the Overlook Pass and killed more than 300,000 demon race, which has already intimidated all the soldiers. When the soldiers knew that you were appointed as the deputy commander, they were very excited and expectant. They are waiting for you to lead them to victory." Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "Since you have already arranged everything, then I am relieved. The soldiers have rested for a few days and now it is time for them to go out of the Overlook Pass and achieve their goals. Xia Wudao, go gather 300,000 elite soldiers. I will lead them to attack the Black Wind Valley." Xia Wudao was about to nod in agreement when he suddenly reacted and his expression changed. "Ah! Young Master Ji, this old man did not hear wrongly, right? You want to attack the Black Wind Valley? That is the only barrier and line of defense in the wilderness outside the Overlook Pass. The demon race has stationed more than 400,000 soldiers in the Black Wind Valley and set up an inescapable ambush. There is also an indestructible defensive array. You want to attack the Black Wind Valley? I am afraid that no general will dare to accept your order." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.